Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
A Crew for a King by Fallen Angel Codester. To become king of the pirates, you need a crew. And in order to reach his dream, Luffy will need all the help he can get. Extended crew story. Slightly more serious Luffy. Adios.
It had been 4 days since any of the Straw Hats had an actual meal. In that time, it was amazing none of them had gone insane. It was possible to hear someone's stomach growling pretty much all the time, but there was nothing they could do. The only food was Marianne's secret cracker cache, but she wouldn't tell anyone where they were. So, most of them were starving. Until a massive sea monster burst out of the sea before them. Yes, Johnny shouted. Our first meal in days. Kill that thing. Yosaku agreed. Make sure not to slice it up to bad. I want to try out all the cuts from that thing. Sanji shouted, a gun in his hand. Luffy was preparing to join his men before Vivi appeared, slamming her fists down on all three of them. Don't do anything stupid, she shouted. It's a sea cat. Looking up, Luffy noted that the creature did indeed resemble a cat. Its entire upper half was feline, while its bottom half was a fish. He watched, stomach roaring, as it disappeared into the sea. Why did you do that? Big sis Vivi, Yosaku cried out from the deck. We're starving. Because sea cats are sacred in Alabasta, she replied. I can't let you kill one. Alabasta? Luffy asked. Does that mean we're close? Nami finished for him, walking up to him. We're still heading in the right direction, and judging from the stabilizing weather we've entered Alabasta territory. Who cares? Johnny cried as he pulled at Nami's clothes from his position before her. I'm so hungry. Big sis Nami. Big sis Vivi. Please just look away and let us have one. No, Vivi replied flatly. They're sacred, no means no. We better have a banquet to rival the gods once we save Alabasta, Yosaku grumbled as he got to his feet and trudged away. That does sound great, Luffy said as his mind filled with images of plated piled to the roof with meats. How about we skip the whole save Alabasta step and go straight to that? We can eat once we get ashore, Vivi said. I'm sure there will be restaurants we can go to. Luffy pouted, seriously wondering why none of the girls seemed as hungry as them. Sanji must have been sneaking them food. That bastard, he'd pay for that. We're close, you'll survive, Nami said to him, having noticed his expression. How close? He asked weakly. I'm so hungry, Nami. Pretty close, I think, Nijiko said. Luffy and Nami both turned to the quartermaster, who wasn't facing them. Why do you say that? Luffy asked. No reason, Nijiko replied as she lifted a finger and pointed behind them. Might have something to do with those ships. At this, the entire crew dropped what they were doing and rushed to look. Several dozen ships were behind them, all headed in the same direction that they were. That mark on their sails, it's Baroque works, Vivi said, Usopp, Johnny and Yosaku freaking out. They must be gathering their forces. That's bad, Marianne said, watching from underneath her hat. Crocodile really is going to make his move for the country. Which means we need to be more careful than before, Nami said, hand resting on the X1 her forearm. Cover up your marks, guys. We're getting close. Luffy did as he was told and grabbed a cloth from Sanji, wrapping it around the X Marianne put on their arms. He had to admit, the smaller girl was really smart to be able to bypass a cool ability like Mr. Two's. He couldn't help but wonder what other abilities agents had, and if they were as cool as his. This was going to be awesome. I see Alabasta, Usopp shouted. Luffy whipped around, spotting a bright sandy beach port welcoming them. He rushed to the head of Mary and hoped on top, watching as the island grew closer and closer. Here we go guys, he shouted. Next stop, a restaurant, after that, Alabasta. Smoker didn't want to believe what he'd heard from the captured agents, but they all guaranteed that what they were saying was legit. But he still needed to run this over in his head one more time. Baroque Works, an underground bounty hunter association on the Grand Line, was working under the mysterious Mr. Zero to fund the insurgents in Alabasta. They planned on using the Civil War to gain control of the country for themselves, making Mr. Zero the leader of the country they planned to create. They claimed that they worked for the man in order to gain a spot in his new country, and that they didn't necessarily believe all of his motives. Smoker personally thought that was a load of shit, but that wasn't the point. They'd given him this information in hopes of being given a reduced sentence, which was what he tried to use to bargain with them. In all honesty, he couldn't guarantee them that. But they didn't know that. What disturbed him the most, however, was what they said after this. They claimed that the missing princess, Vivi Nefertari, had gone undercover in Baroque works in an attempt to find out the truth they had just shared. They said they'd been sent to kill her to stop the flow of the information she knew getting to the king and the leader of the rebels. From what they had said, the princess was traveling with a group of pirates she had coerced into helping her, and she would arrive in the country shortly. So, Smoker decided what he was going to go. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" Smoker turned to look at his ensign, Toshigi, watching him warily. Those agents could very well be lying. "If they are, we'll know," he said. "For now, I want to see if we can spot the princess arriving here. Is everyone spread out?" "Yes," she said. "I've stationed our men all around Nanohana. If someone spots Vivi, we'll know." "And if they're lying?" she questioned. Smoker neglected to answer, deciding instead to keep his eyes on his ship. He didn't know much about Baroque works, but he knew enough about underground organizations that if word got out those three and Mr. 11 had snitched, someone would come and try to cover it up. So, he decided that for now he'd stay and guard the ship. If those three were targeted, then he'd know they were telling the truth. "What's with all the shouting?" Toshigi asked, Smoker looking around as the shouting continued. It sounded like a group of men, all shouting at the same time. Looking down the street, he watched as a dust cloud rapidly approached them. "Restaurant. Where are you?" Smoker closed his eyes as the kicked-up dust consumed him and Toshigi, the man in question, blitzing past them. After the dust cloud settled, two more men, one in a blue sweater and the other in green, also rushed past them. "Wait up, big bro," the blue one shouted. "We're hungry too," the other said. Smoker watched them go, wondering what it was that could have made them so hungry. They seemed familiar, too. "See, Captain," Toshigi shouted. Smoker turned to her as she drew his blade. "Those men are a part of Straw Hat Luffy's crew. I recognize them from Logatown." "What?" he demanded angrily. Toshigi was about to give chase, and for a moment Smoker considered letting her go. He'd come to the Grand Line to find Straw Hat, after all. But now they had a situation. If he and Toshigi left, he'd be leaving their informants unguarded. Their informants that told them about the criminals about to take over a whole country. Was Straw Hat worth more to him than the millions of people that were in danger because of Baroque works? Was a personal score a better option than making sure these people stay safe? "Toshigi," he shouted as she tried to leave the docks. "Don't, we've got more important things to do." "Beat, Captain," she shouted in exasperation. "Straw Hat literally just ran past us. We had to go find him and—" "Straw Hat will have to wait," he said, nearly biting his cigars in half in frustration. "I hate it as much as you do. But the people of Alabasta staying safe is more important than some kid with a chip on his shoulder. Let him go." Toshigi obviously seemed upset by this, but let it go and returned to him aboard the ship. "So," Miss Valentine said from the mast she was tied to behind them, "can we have some water, or—" "Shut your— How do we lose track of those idiots the second we get here?" Nami demanded. She was obviously irritated that not only the captain, but Johnny and Yosaku tore down the street looking for food the first chance they got. They kinda needed them here. "There's no point in getting upset about it," Nijiko said as she placed her pistols in their holsters. "Best we can do is look for the noisiest spot in town and rein him in once we have everything. Ready to go, everyone?" "Weren't those two supposed to guard me?" Marianne asked, confused. No one answered her. "All right, here's what we do," Nijiko said as the crew gathered around her. "We're going to need a few things for our journey. First and foremost, food and water. Sanji, I'll leave that to you." "I love when you rely on my Nijiko Swan," Sanji shouted happily. "I'll buy so much food you'll never go hungry." "Chopper, Kuru, go with him," the quartermaster instructed. "You can help him carry the supplies if it gets to be too much." "Okay," Chopper said, tongue hanging out of his mouth as he panted. It was pretty obvious the poor reindeer was overheated, as a desert island was the exact opposite of where he was supposed to be. Kuru watched the reindeer worriedly, quacking at him. Nami, Vivi, and Marianne will come in with me. Nijiko said. We're going to go and find ourselves some clothes. We're not dressed appropriately for this place, and it'll help disguise us. Zoro, go with Usopp and scope the place out. See what you can learn. And try to find Luffy while you're at it. Can't be that hard, Zoro said. I'm sure we'll find those 3 buffoons at the nearest restaurant. With all of this the crew set out, Zoro trailing slightly behind Usopp as they walked in the same direction that the captain and his apprentices had run. Stay right with me, Usopp demanded, glaring suspiciously at Zoro. Last thing we need right now is you getting lost for a stupid reason. I don't get lost, Zoro hissed. As the pair approached a split in the road, Zoro turned right and continued to keep an eye out. He stopped as Usopp grabbed his shoulders. We're going straight, Usopp hissed. Stay with me, for God's sake. Well, say so, then, Zoro shouted back, irritated that he was being babied. He could find his way around just fine. He didn't need this. As he continued trailing behind Usopp, Zoro looked around. The port town seemed to be in good shape, all things considered. You know, the Civil War. People were walking through the streets and talking at market stalls, acting like everyday people. Had Zoro not known better, he'd say things were fine. But he knew better. As they moved in between the buildings, Zoro cast his eyes towards the port, and his eyes widened. Sitting in the port was a marine ship, but that in and of itself was not what concerned him. Sitting aboard the ship, watching the city was a man and woman Zoro could not help but recognize. Captain Smoker and Tashigi from Logatown stood on lookout, having a conversation. Zoro quickly moved out of view, making absolutely certain Usopp was still ahead of him. Shit, he hissed angrily. What? Usopp asked. I just said that I wanted to stock up on some local ingredients for my ammo. Not that, Zoro hissed. I just saw Smokey from Logatown. Who? Usopp asked. Just know he's a marine from Logatown who tracked us here. Zoro replied. We have to find those 3 knuckleheads and get the hell out of here, now. Usopp, now clearly inspired to get going, ran through the streets with Zoro in close pursuit. Before long the pair made it to a restaurant with the door blown in, and Zoro could hear massive amount of eating from inside. Running to the door, he peered inside and found his captain and pair of apprentices chowing down at the counter, everyone watching them in shock. Particularly, the man sitting next to Luffy. The man was wearing a sun hat on his head and no shirt, which Zoro figured kinda negated the hat's ability to prevent a sunburn. The black-haired man laughed as Luffy ate, slamming his fist onto his back. You haven't changed a bit, Luffy, the man shouted, still as bottomless as ever. Neither have you, Ace, Luffy replied with his mouth full. It's so good to see you. And it was nice to meet you, big bro Ace, Johnny shouted as he ate. Yosaku could only nod as he chowed down. Your deckhands are nice guys, Luffy. The man, Ace, said with a snort. Guess they haven't really learned anything from you yet, huh? I'm nice, Luffy shouted. I'm the nicest guy ever. Right. And I'm the king of pirates, you are? Luffy, I was joking. Are you really that stupid still? Oh, don't joke about stuff like that, Ace. I believed you. Zoro watched this exchange in confusion. What am I watching? Usopp demanded. I have no idea, Zoro said flatly. Whatever it is, it's weird. Let's just get those morons and go. Luffy. Calling out his captain's name made him turn, as well as Johnny and Yosaku. Yo, Zoro, Luffy called. Come have a seat, I want to introduce you to someone. We can do that later, Zoro replied. Smoker is here. Who? Luffy asked, confused. Zoro resisted the urge to punch Luffy in the head. The smoky guy from Logatown, he hissed. Luffy's face went lax at this. Oh, he said, continuing to eat. It took him 5 seconds to actually react. Smokey? That's bad. We know, he said. We gotta go get the others and get the hell out. Come on, Usopp urged. Luffy swallowed what he had in his mouth and turned to look at the man beside him. Wanna come? He asked. The man stretched and chuckled. I suppose if I can help my idiot brother out of a bind, it's my duty to do so, huh? Wait a minute, Usopp said, Zoro's mind also grinding to a halt. Did you just say brother? Of course. Luffy said as he wrapped a rubbery arm around the man's shoulders. Zoro, Usopp. I want you to meet Ace, he's my big brother. These clothes are beautiful. Nami sang happily as she perused the racks. The racks were full to the brim with clothes of all different colors, perfect for someone who lived in the desert. She was already calculating how much she could barter these down for. Should she put a small rip or two into the clothes they were buying for the guys so she could get a damaged merchandise discount? Maybe? What should we be on the lookout for, Vivi? Nijiko asked from a few racks over. Anything in particular? I've been thinking about that, Vivi replied. I think, with our numbers, our best bet would be to disguise ourselves as wanderers. Maybe have us disguised as dancers. There was some nice outfits over here. Are we sure that's a good idea with Love Cook on board? Nijiko asked with a weak smile on her face. We do need him focused on something other than us. It would be for the best, Marianne added from the seat she was on nearby. Alabasta has a lot of wanderers these days. We'd fit right in. Vivi seemed a little unsettled by these words, but she didn't voice her worries. Nami made a mental note to ask later. Well, what did you have in mind? She asked as she walked over. She inspected the clothes Vivi was suggesting and knew right away that Sanji would lose his mind. The clothes would leave their stomachs exposed, presumably for some kind of dance. Cultural garb, perhaps, would definitely help sell the traveling group bit they wanted to go for. She decided to check the price tag. She growled under her breath. And I thought I was a thief, she hissed under her breath. She'd definitely need to up her skills for this one, because there was no way in hell she was paying that price several times over. It was definitely time to put a small rip in their clothes. We'll see what we can do, Vivi, she said to the princess. Excuse me, ladies? Nami turned at this to see a man had approached them. He seemed like any ordinary Joe, but one thing caught Nami's eye. His marine uniform under the brown cloak he had on. Yes? She asked in as sweet a voice as possible. If this guy somehow knew her or that they were with Luffy. They were in troop but overheard that you called you friend here Vivi, he said. You wouldn't happen to be Princess Vivi Nefertari? What happened next happened in an instant. Nijiko pushed Nami behind her, hand on the grip of her revolver. She watched the marine intensely, and the man began to sweat under her gaze. Marianne was behind him now, a paintbrush-colored green in her hand. Why, you must be the protection detail that those Baroque Works agents mentioned, he said meekly. Please relax a bit, I don't intend to hurt you. I'm here to help you. Help us how? Nami asked, hand-itching for the weapon Usopp had handed her back on the Mary. Explain yourself. The man nodded, gulping. I'm here with Captain Smoker of the Marines. We know about the plot to overthrow Alabasta. He wishes to offer his services to Princess Vivi to ensure the country remains safe. Okay, so, maybe I'm more pirate than I thought, Nijiko said as they walked through the streets of Nanohana, following behind their marine escort. But is there any particular reason we're trusting the Marines here? He just gave us a bunch of info no one else should know, Vivi said flatly. He knows about me going undercover, and from the sounds of it Baroque Works agents told him. That's right, the Marine said as he turned to look at them. A group of them. One of them has a 3 in his hair, know him? Mr. 3 again, Nami hissed weakly, not able to believe that Mr. 3 was still sulking around. Let me guess, a blonde woman and a guy with curly hair? Yep, that's them. The Marine replied. Great, so that was another thing that lined up. Shouldn't we go and find Luffy? Vivi asked. We should all be here for this. Not a chance, Nijiko replied. You really want that guy to join a strategy meeting with Marines? We'll never get anywhere with him there. Best we do the talking while he shoves his face full of food. Nami agreed with that. A guy who wanted to be king of the pirates would want nothing to do with the Marines. I mean, I guess. Vivi replied. I just can't believe we're this lucky. We usually aren't, so keep your eyes open, Nami said. Marianne is already going back to Mary, so we should be ready to go if need be. Marianne had opted to look for Luffy and the others, deciding that being called out as a member of Baroque Works by her former allies was too big of a risk. That made sense to Nami. After all, the last thing they needed was to lose an ally. After reaching the docks, Nami could see a Navy battleship docked. It was clearly the one that the Marine was heading to. As they got closer, Nami was a Marine up top on the ship with pure white hair and several cigars hanging out of his mouth. Didn't take a genius to see he was the one in charge. Hold on a sec, you guys. Nijiko said, grabbing Nami by the collar of her shirt. Vivi getting grabbed as well. This is bad. Why? Vivi asked. I mean, aside from that, you're a pirate trying to get help from the Marines. I recognize that guy, Najiko said, looking apprehensive. Usopp and I saw him in Logatown when we saved Luffy from getting beheaded. He probably came here to find Luffy. Shit, seriously? Nami demanded. Wait, Luffy almost got beheaded? Not important right now, Najiko insisted. Listen, right now we've got no reason to tell him that we're with Luffy. He never saw you or me, Nami, so he doesn't know we're with him. Keep it that way until we've secured an alliance, okay? I never planned on telling a soul I was associated with him anyway, Nami said in a joking manner, heart beating much quicker than before. She needed to stay calm and make sure they had this guy's help. As much as she hated to have to do it, they needed help. And help was the one thing the Marines were good at. Generally, anyway. Welcome aboard, Princess Vivi. The man said as they came on board the ship. It's good to see you made it home in one piece. I'm glad I got here too, Vivi said. I'm sure I don't need to tell you how important it is that I make it to my father and the rebels. Of course, the man said. But formalities first. My name is Smoker, and this is my ensign Tashigi. He said this as he gestured to the woman with blue hair and glasses standing next to him. We're very glad to have you on board our ship. And these ladies, I assume, are the escorts that the Baroque Works agents mentioned? Yes. Vivi replied as she gestured to Nami and Najiko. This is Nami and Najiko, and yes, they are pirates. But I'd like to ask you to refrain from any attempted arrests until this crisis is over. We'll need their help. Smoker didn't seem too pleased by this proposition, but he nodded all the same. I'll abide by that, he said. But I can't imagine that it's only those two. It's not, Vivi assured him, but I still want you to keep your end of the bargain. And in return, I'll make sure that the pirates don't cause any trouble or steal anything. I suppose that'll have to do, Smoker said with a sigh. As much as I hate to admit it, I'll gladly work with pirates if it means we can save this country from ruin. So, what do you know? Tell us first, and we'll fill in the blanks. Vivi supplied. Smoker told them how they had captured the Baroque Works agents after intercepting a transponder snail call from them to their boss, and how the agents had ratted out the princess to him. He also mentioned how the agency planned on turning Alabasta into an ideal country under their boss, Mr. Zero. That's pretty much all we know, Smoker said. Care to fill in the blanks? Well, first things first, Vivi said. You should know that Mr. Zero is Crocodile. This caused Smoker, Tashigi, and the other Marines to gape in surprise. Are you serious? Tashigi asked weakly. Vivi nodded. Sadly, yeah, she said. Alabasta's self-imposed savior is the one behind this mess. Smoker growled at this, glowering out at the city. I should have known better, he hissed. I knew that guy was fishy. I bet all those pirates he's stopped over the years were people he hired to cause trouble. His complicates things. How could things possibly get more complicated? Nami asked. We have to fight a warlord of the sea and his army of idiots. Because the people of this country think he's a hero, Smoker replied. If what you said is true, we're not getting any help from anyone else. Hell, I'd be surprised if the rebels believe us. We don't need to tell them it's Crocodile, do we? Nami asked. I mean, we can just tell them that the Civil War was manufactured by Baroque Works. Saying it's Crocodile outright isn't necessary. Let's hope so, Smoker said. Now, what is it we need to do? What's first? Well, first we need to gather resources, Vivi replied. We have allies out doing that right now, and after that we can. Let the girls go, Smokey. Nami covered her eyes as something smashed into the deck of the ship, throwing dust and wood everywhere. What the hell was that? Tashigi called from somewhere. We're being attacked, a Marine shouted. As the smoke cleared, Nami could see what the problem was. And immediately wrapped her hands around Luffy's throat and began shaking him violently. What the hell is wrong with you? She demanded. You guys were in trouble, Luffy said, looking angry. Smokey has you. We were not captured, Najiko said, looking livid. We're discussing the Civil War problem. He's going to help us. Help us? Luffy asked. Smokey is Straw Hat Luffy? Nami released Luffy as Smoker reappeared from a cloud of smoke, looking livid as well. What are you doing here? You captured my navigator and my quartermaster, Luffy shot back, not to mention Vivi. We weren't captured, Nijiko shouted as Marines rushed onto the deck and aimed their rifles at them. We were discussing working together. Get your filthy Navy hands off these beautiful ladies, Sanji's voice shouted, as he and the rest of the crew and a man Nami did not recognize forced their way on board. Big sis Nami, big sis Nijiko, big sis Vivi, Yosaku shouted, blade already drawn. Are you okay? I'm sorry, I tried to tell them they had it wrong, Marianne shouted amid the chaos. Let's get these assholes out of here, Zoro said. Capture Straw Hat and his crew, Smoker shouted. Then we can help the princess. All of you, stop it. The deck fell dead silent as Vivi shouted at the top of her lungs, everyone looking over to her. Despite the chaos around her, the princess looked dead calm. Captain Smoker, she said as she turned to look at him. You promised me you would not attempt to arrest my pirate guards. As you can see, here they are. You neglected to mention that your guard was Straw Hat's crew, Smoker said. That man is worthy 30 million berries, wanted in the East Blue and Grand Line. All I did was go to Logatown, Luffy accused, pointing his finger angrily, and you decided to arrest me. I don't care what you. I was promised my guards were to get free passage, and if they can't then this deal has dissolved. Silence came over the deck, all eyes on Smoker. After a few seconds, he growled. Put your weapons down, men. He said. The country's people are more important than this new blood pirate. The Marines lowered their guns, however slowly, and the silence came back as Vivi sighed. Thank you, she said. As I was saying, what we need to do is get supplies and then stop the rebels. Their base is in Yuba. We can take our ships upstream and then walk the rest of the way. Is that okay with you, Captain Smoker? Sure, Smoker hissed. Works for us. Good, Vivi said. Luffy, let's get back to the Mary. Take your ship around to the river when you're ready, Smoker. We'll meet you there. With this, Vivi ushered them down off the ship and away from the Marines. No one saying a word until they were down the street. We're working them that guy? Johnny asked, gesturing back to the ship. That seems kinda dangerous for us, no? We need all the help we can get, Nijiko said. So having his backup might save our asses. Man, you sure got yourself wrapped up in something, didn't y'all, Luffy? It was then Nami finally took notice of the man she did not recognize. That's like you, all right, immediately getting into a terrible scenario. I don't do it on purpose, Luffy said. Besides, Vivi needed my help, so I'm gonna help her. And it was around then that Luffy seemed to notice some of them staring in confusion. Oh, my bad guys. I only introduced some of you. This is my brother Ace. Wait, brother? Nami asked as Luffy laughed. You never said you had a brother? When did you ask? Luffy asked. Fair enough point, she'd never asked. This must be the complete batch, huh? Ace asked. The people you've made look after you for all this time. I didn't make them, Luffy said. Questionable, Nami replied, thinking back to when she met Luffy. What happened next though, made her question if these two were really related. Ace bowed to them deeply. Thank you guys for looking after this idiot, he said. He's lost without people to help him, so thanks for getting him this far. It was a lot of work, Nijiko said flatly. How is your brother such a normal person and you're a freak? Nami asked Luffy. I'm normal, Luffy insisted, no one agreeing with him. As they continued to walk and talk, Ace turned to Luffy. So Luffy, I came to find you cause I wanted to ask you something. Yeah? What's that? Luffy asked. You and your crew want to come work with Whitebeard? He asked, stunning everyone into silence. Did you just say Whitebeard? Yosaku cried out. That's one of the strongest pirates in the whole world, Johnny shouted. Nah, Luffy replied. Not interested. Ace just laughed as the rest of the crew stared on in shock. I figured you would say that, he said, but no damage in asking. You're aiming for the top, so there's no way you'd work for another man. Damn right. Luffy replied. I'm going to be the Pirate King. What if I help Whitebeard become the king first? I'll just beat him to it, not likely. Nami watched in amusement as the brothers descended into an argument, the rest of the crew just watching as well. She was incredibly uneasy about having to work with Smoker, but she knew that Crocodile was too strong of an enemy to just refuse his help. They would need all the help they could get out of this. Are you sure about this, Captain? Tashigi asked Smoker, the pair watching the Straw Hats disappear into the town to gather their supplies. I don't want to work with them any more than you do, Toshigi, he said, taking a deep drag off his cigars. But the princess made it clear they're her help. We made an agreement to not arrest the pirates helping her. But it's Straw Hat, Toshigi complained. I know, Smoker said. But we were willing to ignore out duty for any random pirates. But not them? Will we allow our personal vendettas to get in the way of our mission here? Is your vendetta against that swordsman and his disciples worth more than the citizens of Alabasta? No, Toshigi conceded. Exactly, Smoker replied. It pains me to admit it, but we're aligning with the Straw Hats for now. Once we've dealt with Crocodile, we can look into arresting them. I still can't believe this, Toshigi replied. The boss of Baroque Works is Crocodile? We have no reason to distrust Princess Vivi, Smoker said. So for now, we get what we need and meet up with them at the mouth of the river. Let's go, you lot. After gathering everything that they needed, the Straw Hat Pirates got aboard the Going Merry and set sail for the mouth of the river that led inland. On their way they spotted the Marine's ship waiting for them, all the men on board looking rather tense. I guess this is where we part ways, you guys, Ace said as he jumped onto the railing. Any of you heard the name Marshall Teach? Who's that? Luffy asked, gaining interest in Ace's mission. Ace's expression darkened. A former member of my division in Whitebeard's crew, he said. Bastard killed a crew member. Silence fell upon the Merry at this, none of the Straw Hats knowing what to say. That would be like one of them killing another. The idea was sickening to them all. He's evaded me for half the damn Grand Line, but I swear I'll find him. Anyone heard anything? Luffy asked. No one spoke up. Sorry Ace, seems we've missed him. Didn't expect an answer, don't worry about it. Ace replied as his smile came back. Seems we've got visitors. Luffy made a face and turned to follow Ace's view, his eyes falling upon a group of ships tailing them. They flew unfamiliar colors, but he knew this couldn't be good. Those are Baroque Works agent ships, Vivi said. Did they see me in town? Likely, Marianne replied as she peered over the railing. The whole country is full of agents. I got it, Ace replied as he turned away from the crew. You'll owe me though, Luffy, keep that paper I gave ya close. I can handle them, Luffy accused. But Ace gave him no time to argue and leapt from the ship onto his small skiff down below. Kicking on his devil fruit powers, Ace soared towards the ships and, in one fell swoop, blasted through them with a massive gout of flame. Luffy laughed as the ships began to collapse in on themselves. Holy hell! Johnny shouted, his eyes nearly popping out from behind his glasses. How strong is your brother? He's fire first you idiot, Yosaku replied. Guy serves with Whitebeard, there's no way he's just some weakling. Let Ace handle them, Vivi said, also looking shocked regardless of her words. Let's go meet Smoker on land. Luffy gave his brother's destruction one last grin before he got off the Merry for land. One day, he'd prove to Ace he was stronger than him. One of these days. Hello Captain. Vivi greeted as the crew walked up to Smoker and Toshigi on the side of the river. Are you prepared? Depends, Smoker replied. How far do we have to walk? It will take some time to get to Yuba, Vivi replied. I'd recommend packing light if I were you. Smoker made a face at this and looked back up at his ship. I've got a better idea, Smoker replied. Men? Luffy turned as a board was thrown off of the ship, presumably for gear to be transported down. His eyes widened as 5 camels descended from the ramp down into the sand. You've got camels, Smokey? He asked as he ran to inspect them. I rented them in town, Smoker replied with a huff. Figured it's better than walking through the desert. Although some of you may need to take turns. I didn't get a full head count of your crew, Straw Hat. I'll give it to ya for next time, Luffy said happily as he mounted a camel with almond-shaped eyes. So everyone can have a camel. Smoker just seemed agitated by this, climbing on top of his own camel with Toshigi. Luffy offered Nami a hand onto his, and she accepted. Johnny and Yosaku immediately climbed onto one excitedly, Chopper resting in Johnny's lap. Noimed another, Zoro and Usopp as well. This left Sanji on his feet. He tried to get onto Nejiko and Marianne's camel, but he was kicked off by the painter who said his legs were good enough to carry him for a while. He whined about it for a bit, but the only person who offered to switch was Usopp, who did so as a joke to see if he could get Sanji and Zoro on the same camel. Neither wanted any part of that. Everyone ready? Vivi asked as the arrangement settled. It will still take some time to get to Yuba. Let's go. What exactly is this thing? Nami asked as she played with the piece of paper in her hands. I dunno, Luffy replied. Ace told me to hold on to it, though. Why? I just said, I don't know. Nami made a face at this, trying to find any sort of hidden message in the paper. She found none, and sighed as she went to work sewing into the inside of Luffy's hat. She didn't have a clue what it was for, but clearly it had some time of value. And so, into the hat it went. That made it easy for Luffy to keep his hands on it. Giving the hat back to her captain, Nami surveyed the desert around them. The group consisting of their crew, Captain Smoker, Tashigi and some of his marines had been walking through the desert for some time now on their way to Yuba. They'd already passed through a dried-up village, where Vivi told them about how the rebellion started. Nami thought back to the story about the dance powder, and what it meant for Alabasta. It made sense when you thought about it. Using the powder, Crocodile was sowing distrust amongst the populace that the king was keeping it raining wherever he was and letting them dry out and die. When confronted with such ideas, most people would agree a rebellion was in order, and here they were. Thank God we have these camels, Usopp said off to her side, otherwise we'd have been walking for hours, and I'd probably die. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? Negico asked him. Usopp shook his head. No, look at Chopper. He's already dying. As if to prove his point, Usopp lifted up the panting reindeer and presented him to the crew. It's 'cause he's furry, you moron, Sanji said pointedly as he walked alongside them. The poor guy hadn't gotten a camel, and had been forced to walk alongside the Marines. These camels were a good idea though, Vivi said as she smiled at Smoker's direction. Excellent thinking, Captain Smoker. It's more like poor thinking on your part, Princess, Smoker replied with a look over his shoulder. Traversing the Alabastian desert with no transportation? That's pure insanity. I can tell, Luffy said. Vivi, were we seriously gonna do this with no camels? Vivi just laughed weakly. I mean, we didn't really have the money. Nami has money, Luffy replied, Nami smacking him on the back of his head. No I don't, she shouted. Yes, you do, Negico said flatly. Negico. It's the truth, little sister. Nami fumed irritably at being called out for having secret funds, but otherwise the trip grew quiet again. She did have to admit, though, the idea of doing this on her own 2 feet was horrific. At least Smoker had thought ahead. Rocks up ahead, Tashigi said as the crew looked up. We can rest out of the sun for a few minutes and then keep going. Thank the gods, Chopper wheezed in Usopp's lap. I'm going to have a tan all around my eyes, Johnny complained loudly as he adjusted his sunglasses. I've never even seen you without your sunglasses, Johnny, Usopp said, raising an eyebrow. Take them off, we don't even know what your eyes look like. I'll keep them where they are, thank you, Johnny replied. I don't want to expose my eyes to the sun. Pansy, Yosaku muttered from behind his friend. Coming from Captain Mirror forehead. Johnny shot back as he flicked Yosaku's bald head. Without my sunglasses I wouldn't even be able to look right at you. Both of you shut up, Negico said irritably. Yes big sis, they both said, quieting up. A rest would be good for them at this rate. Everyone was getting crabby from the sun, even with the change of clothes that protected them from it. Nami pulled the hood closer to her face as they got closer to the rocks, the camels coming to a stop. What the hell is this? Luffy asked. What? Nami asked, leaning to look past him. Up above, in the spaces between the rocks, were birds. All of them dead, lying on the ground. Holy shit, Sanji remarked. What happened here? Nothing, Vivi replied. Negico-san, fire off a shot please. Why? Negico asked. Vivi just gestured for her to do it, so the woman sighed and reached for her gun and fired a shot. As the gunshot sounded, the birds squawked in terror and got up from the ground, flying away in fright. What just happened? Zoro asked in confusion. Thieves, Vivi answered. Those birds are notorious for pulling that trick on travelers. Had he tried to help we'd have been robbed blind of our supplies. What would we do without you, Vivi? Luffy asked with a laugh. Get robbed, probably, Nami answered as she flicked the back of Luffy's head. Your dumb ass probably would have tried to rescue the birds. No I wouldn't, Luffy replied. Nami ignored him as everyone dismounted and ran for the shade that the rocks provided, the heat being abated by the darkness. Oh, that feels so nice. Chopper whispered weakly as he lay on his back on the sand. One of the camels made a noise next to him. You're made for the heat, don't make fun of me. Nami smiled weakly at the scene. The reindeer conversing with the reindeer. It was cute beyond belief. Honestly, she had no way of knowing if Chopper could really understand animals, but from Karu's excitement, it seemed to be real. Speaking of Karu, where was he? Hey Vivi, Nami spoke up as she drank some water. Where is Karu? I sent him ahead of us, Vivi answered back. I gave him a letter meant for my father to deliver. It's about the civil war and who's behind it. Will he be okay? Nijiko asked as she took the canteen from Nami. He's fast and knows the land, Vivi replied. I'm sure you'll be fine. Nami hoped so. The last thing they needed was for the duck to get captured. Or killed. Or eaten. Really any bad thing happening to him. As the group began to repack everything to keep going, the ground beneath them shuddered. At first they shrugged it off, but when it happened again, they knew something was happening. Turning, Nami watched as the sand in front of them exploded outwards. From within it emerged a creature she never in her wildest dreams expected to see in the desert. Is that a giant crocodile? Johnny shouted in terror as they watched the beast mull around. It is, Vivi said, it's a bananawani. We should probably steer clear of it. How do we manage that, exactly? Smoker asked. It's massive and right in our way. I got it. Luffy shouted as he ran ahead. Zoro, Sanji, help me out. Wait, you moron. Nami shouted, being ignored by all three. At first some part of her was worried for some reason, but as she watched the gator get sliced to pieces she quickly reminded herself who she was with. Suppose they had some energy to burn, huh? Nijiko asked as the three men returned to them. Let's go, Luffy shouted as he remounted the camel he'd been sharing with Nami. We've got to make it to Yuba. Hia, Nami made a face, then shrieked and grabbed onto Luffy for dear life as he kicked the camel in the sides, spurring it into a sprint. Give me a warning next time, you jackass, she shouted, nearly knocking him off the camel as it ran. Who knew camels could go so fast? Luffy marveled as he hung from the side, sand hitting him in the face. The sun was beginning to set when the group finally made it to Yuba. Or rather, what was left of it. What happened here? Vivi cried out as she threw herself off her camel and ran for the city. Nami had to wonder the same thing. Yuba looked just as dry and barren as the rest of the desert behind them, save for the buildings all around them. If I had to guess, Yosaku said as he rubbed his chin, the water disappeared. Didn't realize we had a scientist on the crew, Sanji muttered under his breath as Vivi ran into the town. Everyone followed after her, looking around at the dried-out oasis. This was clearly very, very wrong. This is horrible. Vivi whispered. The sands made the ground rise up. The oasis is drying up. And I don't see rebels, Smoker said flatly. He was right about that. Yuba was barren in more than one way. Ain't nobody left in our dried-up town, travelers. A new voice Sato see a man standing off in a hole, repeating driving a shovel into the ground as he dug. We can see that, Zoro replied. Hey, old guy, Luffy said, we heard there was a rebellion here, but I don't see anyone. The Mont's grip on the shovel tightened at this. You're here for the rebels? He asked angrily, glaring at them now. What, to join them? With this? Nami flinched as the man turned and hurled his shovel at Luffy, who dodged it in a panic. What the hell? Luffy shouted angrily. They're not here, the old man said as he walked over to pick the shovel back up. They left. I can't imagine why, Sanji muttered. The old man laughed. Neither can I, he replied. Why wouldn't anyone want to stay in this dried-up hellhole that gets attacked by sandstorms all day? Is that what happened here? Tashigi asked. The man nodded. Rebels can't rebel without a circulation of goods, he said, and with the oasis disappearing, no one comes here anymore. So they moved to Kotoria. Kato. Vivi started in surprise. Is that close? Nijiko asked with a hand on her hip. Vivi paled. It's the oasis next to Nanohana, she whispered. The crew was silent for a good few seconds before they collectively lost their minds. Nanohana. Luffy shouted. That's where we just were, Johnny cried. We had to backtrack, Chopper shouted, already sweating. Damn it. Smoker cursed, turning to his men. Let's get going, all of you. Princess Vivi, we had to go. Vivi? The old man asked. Did you just say Princess Vivi? He definitely didn't, Yosaku shouted as he put himself between the old man and Vivi. The man tossed the swordsman aside. Vivi, it's me, he shouted as he grabbed her hands. Don't you recognize me? I suppose I've lost some weight since back then. Vivi looked lost, but soon her eyes widened. Mr. Toto? She asked. The man gave a teary nod, and Vivi hugged him tightly at this. Everyone else just stood around awkwardly as the pair reunited, not sure what to say. A friend of yours? Nijiko finally asked to break the silence. Vivi sniffled and nodded, pulling away from Toto. He's the dad of one of my old friends, she answered. I knew you'd come here many years ago, but… And what? Toto asked. You thought I'd leave all I had managed to build? Not in a million years. I know your dad is innocent, Vivi. He's not the type of man who would do this to his country. Vivi smiled at this. Thank you, Mr. Toto, she said. Please don't worry, we aren't here to join the rebellion. We came to stop it. Toto laughed at this. Can't do much after a long day in the desert, he said. Please, stay here for the night. You can leave first thing in the morning. That sounds good to me, Zoro said. I've been riding a camel for hours. Shouldn't we move as fast as possible to stop the rebels? Smoker demanded. We can take one night, Smokey, Luffy replied. Alright crew, here's an order from your captain. Find us the best hotel in this town, ASAP. It would have been weird if the Straw Hats managed to sort out the sleeping arrangements without complete mayhem. Why the hell do you get so many pillows, Usopp? Zoro demanded. Because I have a bad back, Usopp replied, lying through his teeth as per usual. Who cares? Share. No, Johnny. Yosaku. On the order from Zoro, both swordsmen leapt on the lyre and dragged away many of the pillows, much to his distress. You people are insane, Marianne muttered. Johnny replied by clocking her in the face with a pillow. Ow. Don't throw pillows at me. Couldn't hear ya. Little sis, Johnny replied innocently as he pushed the pillow back into her face, which made her fall back on her bed. Get out of my bed, Sanji, Nijiko ordered. I can't bear the thought of you sleeping alone, Nijiko Swan, Sanji sang innocently. Nijiko's response was to click the hammer back on her revolver. Vivi watched the carnage as the crew tried to sort everything out, making her laugh as she did so. How such a dysfunctional group of pirates had managed to get this far, she would never know. You're free to find another room, Vivi, Nami said from her side. Vivi just laughed at this. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, she replied. As she looked around at the chaos, she noticed that the leader of the chaos, Luffy, was not present. Where had he disappeared to? Getting up, she wandered out of the hotel and into Yuba, walking among the abandoned buildings. As she reached the center of town, she saw Luffy ahead of her with Toto. What are you doing? She asked as she reached them, Luffy turning to her. Your friend's digging for water, Luffy replied, can't seem to find any. There is water here, Toto insisted. I know there is, it's just deep down here. Vivi frowned at this as she stared down at the man, who looked so weak and ragged, digging as deep down into the hole as he could. Luffy was also watching him, looking rather irritated. Move, he finally said. What? Toto asked. Luffy didn't say anything more, jumping down into the hole, using his elastic arms. He dug his hands into the ground and began to throw handfuls of dirt into the air at astounding speeds. Toto got out of the hole to prevent getting some in his face, both of them now watching curiously as Luffy worked. He's sure full of energy for a man who just traversed a desert, he noted. He's usually like this, Vivi replied. Luffy must have only worked for a little bit, but soon he cried out in joy. Found it, he shouted. Vivi looked down to find the hole damp at the bottom, the sand turning dark brown as the water seeped out. There you go, boy, Toto exclaimed happily. I told you there was water down there. You're unlike others these days. No patience. Believing what you see the second you see it. This place is dry, the king being behind the drought. It's all ridiculous. Vivi decided telling Toto that Luffy was the direct opposite of patient, simply smiling as the captain pulled himself out of the hole. Don't worry old man, Luffy said, dirt smudged on his face. Vivi, the crew, and I are gonna stop the guy behind this. We'll make sure of it. Right Vivi? Vivi noted to reaffirm this. I hope, she said, if we don't, then. She didn't want to finish that thought. She couldn't bear the thought of failing. She'd honestly rather die than fail her country. Don't look so down, Vivi, Toto replied. If you're here, then the rebellion will surely stop. After all, who else could talk Koza down but you? The silence that followed was deafening. Vivi stared wide-eyed at Toto, who seemed to realize that she hadn't known about Koza. Luffy just looked confused. What's a Koza? He asked, scratching the back of his head. Vivi barely responded to him. He's a friend, she said. I had no idea, but I should have assumed. Prone to jumping to conclusions, that one, Toto remarked sadly, but it'll be okay Vivi, I promise. Koza will listen to you. I know he will. Vivi didn't know about that. Koza had always been a handful, even when they'd been kids. Even worse, he'd been stubborn. Would he listen, or had years of presuming her father was behind this too much for her to dissuade? God, she hoped he was smarter than he used to be. You should go and rest, Vivi, Luffy said, noticing her discomfort. What about you? She asked. The captain simply gestured backwards. I'll help the old guy dig for water, he said. He needs more than a mouthful. I'll be fine, son, Toto said. But Luffy was having none of it. He jumped back into the hole and began to dig with his hands, much to Vivi's dismay as the dirt he flung nearly hit her half a dozen times. Moving away, a small smile graced her face as she went back to the hotel, and the chaos inside. Maybe they could do this. What the hell do you mean, captured? Nico Robin had to admit, this meeting had taken a turn for the worst. After gathering the elite of Baroque works and Crocodile revealing himself, it should have been a simple explanation of the plan and go from there. But something had gone wrong, judging from how livid Crocodile looked. He was on the phone with someone, who was speaking in a hushed, panicked tone. After a few seconds of silence, Crocodile slammed the phone down, making the Den Den Mushi jump. Mr. 3, Mr. 5 and Ms. Valentine were captured by Marines, Crocodile hissed angrily. What? Mr. 2 shouted. Some agents spotted them tied up to the mast of a Marine ship in Nanohana's harbor. They may have been compromised, and for all we know Mr. 3 lied about taking the princess down. Silence fell upon the meeting as the agents struggled to understand what that meant. So the fuck-up did as expected, Mr. 1, a mountain of a man, said. What's our next move? Crocodile was gritted his teeth, but still managed to speak. We find the princess and her pirate buddies, he said, and we kill them all. Ms. All Sunday. Show them the princess. Robin did as she was told and grabbed the photo of the princess that was taken before she disappeared several years before. It took all of a few seconds after the photo hit the table for Mr. 2 to gasp in surprise. I saw her, he exclaimed. Where? Crocodile demanded. She was on a pirate ship outside Alabasta. I thought nothing of it at the time, Crocodile grimaced at this. Which means she's already here, he hissed. Great. Mr. 2, did you get the faces of the pirates? I did. Robin watched as the man switched his face to a number of different men and women. All of them she recognized from her visit to their ship after Whiskey Peak. Seems they added a cute little reindeer, too. Get these faces circulated around to our agents, Crocodile commanded. We must stop her before she reaches the rebel leader. That will surely be her next move. Why's that again? Robin asked. Because she and the rebel leader used to be quite close, he replied. If she comes to him with definite proof that I am behind this, and not her father, he will believe her. This will all fall to ruin. Silence fell over the room, then, what the hell are you all waiting for? We have work to do. I quit. The entire crew watched, stunned, as Luffy threw himself down on the sand and didn't get up. No one really asked what he meant at first, thinking this must have been some dramatic ploy because he was tired. Get up, Luffy. Nijiko said as she wiped sweat from her brow. We have places to be. Nah, Luffy replied. I'm not going to Kotoria. And where are you going? Nami asked. Wherever Crocodile is, Luffy replied, enough wandering around. We need to stop the rebels first, Vivi said. After we calm them down, we can go after Crocodile. Nah, no point. Luffy replied. Vivi frowned at him, not sure what he meant. What are you talking about? She demanded. Whatever Croc's going to do, he's going to do it soon, Luffy replied. We need to make sure we get him before then. And if we wait, then the rebels might attack. Vivi countered. It's got to be our first step, making sure people don't die. People die all the time, Luffy replied offhandedly, like it didn't matter to him. We should just go and kill Crocodile. Vivi gritted her teeth at the captain's sudden attitude. Where was this coming from? Luffy, stop being difficult, Nami ordered, the rest of the crew watching uneasily. I'm not being difficult, I'm being realistic, Luffy replied. Why are we going with Vivi to Kotoria? We'd be better off getting to wherever Croc is. We should all be working as hard as he can, and instead Vivi's doing everything. Luffy. Vivi started. As much as it pains me to admit, Straw Hat makes a good point, Smoker said. We're focusing all in one direction. I agree the rebellion needs to be stopped, but Crocodile needs to be taken down as well. A two-pronged assault. We can't, Vivi shouted, fear flowing through her. Splitting up would be bad, someone could die. So what? Luffy demanded. Besides, if we don't stop Crocodile first he might catch wind that we warned the rebellion. Then he'd escape us. That what you want? If we go to him first, then we risk people seeing it as a move to take down a hero, Vivi replied. Did you forget he's a symbol of hope around here? Taking him down without warning the rebels first would cause chaos. Then ever more people would die. People die, it happens, he replied. Vivi had enough of this. Turning, she drove her foot into Luffy's side as he sat on the ground. Luffy did not take that well. Jumping to his feet, Luffy grabbed Vivi's cloak and punched her in the face. Luffy, you bastard! Sanji shouted somewhere, but Vivi's head was spinning. Stop being naive! Luffy shouted, glaring deep into Vivi's soul. People die. They die all the time. Rebels have died. Soldiers have died. Igaram died. We might too, but that's a risk we're all willing to take. Well, I wouldn't say everyone. Usopp mumbled somewhere to her left. Shut up, Usopp, Zoro said. Vivi focused intently on Luffy's wide eyes that led her to believe he was painfully aware of what he was talking about. Crocodile needs to pay for what he's done to you, to Alabasta, Luffy said steadily. And you want him dead more than anyone, don't you? You're dying to see him suffer. Vivi bit her lip at this. So why not play all our cards, huh? Why not play every front instead of one or two? The group was silent for a bit, everyone watching as Luffy released Vivi. She quickly realized the punch had barely hurt, one only intended to stun her. She stared at Luffy, his owl-like eyes boring into her. God, why did he have to be right? Crocodile is in Rainbase, she finally said. It's an oasis north of Yuba. He has a casino up there that he runs, so it's the perfect cover. It'll take a while to get there, but not more than a day. Who is going to go where? I'm obviously going to Rainbase, Luffy said, and you're going to Kotoria. I am? Vivi asked. But, Tashigi, my men and I will go with the princess, Smoker said, having just watched that whole debacle from his camel. I can have reinforcements from Nanohana meet us there. Wait a second, Vivi said, I want to go and stop Crocodile. Vivi, that's a bad idea, Nami said with a frown. Your presence would work wonders with the rebels. After all, people still think you're missing. But, Vivi started. Not to mention you're a good diplomat, Nijiko continued. You've got a silver tongue in that head on yours. Vivi made a face at this. She wanted to take down Crocodile, not go and talk to the rebels. Still, if Koza was involved. Fine, she said. I'll go to Kotoria. I'll take Sanji and Zoro with me, Luffy said, pointing the two men out. I'll need their help. I suppose I have to go too, Nami said as she walked to stand with Luffy. Without me these morons won't know which way is north. I should go with Vivi, Usopp said. It sounds less dangerous. Where is more likely to have water? Chopper asked quite seriously. Probably Rainbase, Vivi answered. The reindeer sprinted to stand with Luffy and the others. I'll stay with Vivi, Nijiko said with crossed arms. Make sure Usopp doesn't run off. And Marianne might be better off coming with us too. No, I need to go with Luffy, Marianne replied. Rainbase will be full of enemy agents. I can help them avoid being seen. This left just Johnny and Yosaku unsure of where to go. Both of them looked at each other, shrugged, and started playing rock paper scissors. Best of three? Johnny asked. Yep, Yosaku nodded. Won the first round, Johnny picked paper and Yosaku picked scissors. Second round, Johnny picked rock and Yosaku picked scissors again. Both men stared at each other intently as they went into the final round, both of them not backing down as they played the final round. And the Osaku? Johnny looked despondent, but he apparently got stuck with Rainbase as he trudged towards Luffy. Should we even ask why that required no communication? Nijiko wondered aloud. Probably not, Nami said. Those morons are probably linked mentally. In the end, the Rainbase team consisted of Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Marianne, Chopper and Johnny, while the Kotoria team was Vivi, Usopp, Nijiko, Yosaku, Smoker and Tashigi. As everyone grabbed their things and swapped to the right sides, they started to say their goodbyes. Remember, head to Alarbarna once you've dealt with Crocodile, Vivi said. We can all meet up there after this is over. Don't worry about a thing, Vivi. Luffy replied heartily. We'll smack Crocodile around a bit then come find you guys. Then, we can have a massive banquet in the palace. I'd worry a little bit, Nami said with a wink, it's healthy for you. Vivi just chuckled. Don't worry Luffy, she said, once this is over I'll make sure we stuff you until you can't move anymore. Yosaku had to admit, he felt relieved he'd been able to win his bet with Johnny and go with Vivi to Kotoria. He'd been terrified at the idea of going to Rainbase, so the two had, without speaking, agreed that the winner of their game was going with Vivi. And unluckily for Johnny, he'd lost. The only problem he had now was he had no camel. Due to the uneven amount of camels Smoker had bought, they only got 2 to take with them. Smoker and Tashigi got 1, while Vivi and Nijiko got the other. This left him and Usopp on their feet. I'm going to die, Usopp hissed in between labored breaths. Yosaku, carry me. While it normally would have been no issue to carry the sniper, Jishin was heating up in the sunlight and burning his back. Swinging the blade over his shoulder, Yosaku carried it in his hands as he scoffed. Walk, Usopp, he replied, just like Zoro says, spaghetti legs make for shitty swordplay. I am neither a swordsman or spaghetti, so carry me. Yosaku buckled a bit as Usopp leaned into him. Get off me, Yosaku shouted back, pushing the sniper into the sand. Usopp pretended to choke on sand, but it really just made him look dumb. Would the two of you quit it? Nijiko shouted, echoing through the dunes. Yosaku always felt bad whenever her piercing gaze silenced him. Usopp, get on the camel. I'll walk. Usopp was way too happy to switch, which left Nijiko with him. You didn't need to do that, big sis, Yosaku told her as they walked. Yes I did, otherwise he'd never shut up, Nijiko replied as she rubbed the bridge of her nose. Besides, I train with Sanji. I'm fine walking for now. Yosaku supposed that was true. After all, after Chopper, Usopp was the least physically prepared for this trudge through the desert. So Princess, Smoker said from his own camel, what's the plan if we can convince the rebels to stop? When, Captain, Vivi corrected. When we stop the rebels, I plan on asking them to either work with my father to make peace, or have them spread out to stop Crocodile. If Luffy and the others fail, he can't be allowed to escape the country. Do you think they'll fail? Tashigi asked curiously. I don't plan on making that assumption, Vivi replied carefully. As dumb as he might have been, Yosaku was no fool. She'd answered safely. Naturally Vivi wanted to believe in the others, but against a warlord, the odds weren't good for them. If they fail, we'll need the rebels' numbers and loyalty to Alabasta to catch him. They'll be fine, Nijiko said. It sounded more like she was trying to reassure herself than stating a fact. They always are, right Yosaku? Yeah, Yosaku replied, ignoring the memories of Luffy nearly getting killed by Arlong, a number of them nearly getting turned into wax, Nami and himself getting deathly ill, and Luffy nearly freezing to death. They're always fine. Luffy, swap with Zoro. Why? I don't want to walk. If that moron walks he's going to wander back to the East Blue, switch with him. I'll happily hold your waist from behind, Nami Swan. Shut up, all of you. The crew descended into irritated silence as Luffy got off his camel for Zoro, who climbed up behind Nami. The navigator looked positively pissed, having already stopped Zoro from getting lost a few times. Meanwhile Chopper and Johnny just watched from the other camel they shared with Sanji quietly. The quiet was lasting unbearably long, so Johnny cleared his throat. So, how long do you think we'll be on the road big sis Nami? He asked curiously. Assuming no other distractions happen, we'll get there by nightfall, Nami grumbled. Hear that, Zoro? Aye aye, Commandant. Zoro said sarcastically. I hope there's a lot of water there, Chopper said from Johnny's lap. I'm so freaking hot. We can always shave you, little bro, Johnny offered. I'd look like an idiot then, Chopper shouted. But you'd be comfortable, Johnny countered. No is no, Johnny didn't see what the problem was. Chopper didn't really need his fur, did he? Oh well, maybe it was a reindeer thing. The group traveled uninterrupted for what felt like hours, but it was probably only a few minutes. Johnny had to admit, he was nervous. He hadn't wanted to go with the rain-based team, but he'd been given no other option. He'd lost to Yosaku, fair and square. So, he started. What's the plan exactly? We kick Crocodile's ass, Luffy answered. But like, the actual plan, he clarified. Vivi said that he owns a casino. Nami answered from the front, if you ask me, we should don luxurious disguises and see if we can glean any information about him from others. And, play some games. Shark, Zoro said flatly. She smells rich people a mile away. Am I really such a bad guy if I glean a few thousand berries off of patrons of Crocodile? Nami asked him, but Zoro just scoffed. Doesn't stop you from doing it to us, he answered. Doing ship finances is not the same as robbing you. Is for you. So we get disguises and look for information, Johnny said to break the two up, and then? Kick his ass, Luffy insisted. No one else spoke. So we just sneak in and kick his ass, Johnny replied, swallowing hard. Got it. Relax Johnny, Luffy said as he flashed him a grin. How hard could it possibly be? We have people all across Rainbase, Crocodile, Robin said. Her partner didn't seem soothed by these words. I'll kill those four if I ever find them, he hissed. How dare they make a mockery of me? If this ruins the plan, they will never see the light of day again. That's a bit extreme for people who are probably going to jail for life, no? She asked. Don't start with me, Nico Robin, he grumbled as he flashed her an angry glare. She'd seen worse. Have we heard from our people in the rebels' ranks yet? No, they've reported that things are the same as before, she replied casually. I've given them orders to report to us if anyone resembling the princess is seen there. Crocodile didn't seem pleased even after this. Robin could understand why. The Straw Hats had thrown a massive wrench into his plans. Well, that and some particular agents who had been captured by the Marines. She spared a thought to wonder how exactly they'd been done in. Had the Straw Hats defeated them? Had the Marines stumbled on them breaking the law? How exactly do 3 people with devil fruits get captured? So many questions, not enough care to answer them. Achoo! Mr. 3 sneezed. His 2 friends strapped to the barrels groaned. Please stop, Ms. Valentine moaned. I just want to sleep. I can't help it if this ship is dusty, Mr. 3 replied. Just shut up, Mr. 5 hissed. All of you, be quiet. The 3 looked up at the Marines that had been stationed to watch them. Rifles pointed squarely at them. With the sea stone cuffs blocking their powers, it would take just a single shot to silence them forever. At least we aren't dead, Mr. 3 offered hopefully. If we'd returned to Mr. 0 without the princess dead, well, we would be. And the alternative of being better? Ms. Valentine asked. Not just anywhere either, one of the Marines offered mockingly. Impelled down, the inescapable prison. If what we heard about your organization is true, that's where you're all headed. Still better than being dead, Mr. 3 offered. Another Marine laughed at this. You say that now? Absolutely not, Pell winced as the king yelled this response. He and Chaka were standing in the throne room, trying to convince the king to action. We will not preemptively attack the rebels, they haven't done anything. And we'll wait for that, Chaka demanded. That's lunacy, sir. They will attack, we must strike first. No, King Cobra replied. We will not attack the people who haven't done anything yet. That is the real lunacy. Chaka gritted his teeth at this, and Pell himself bit his tongue. He wasn't happy with this response, not at all. He'd hoped the king would see sense, but it seemed that wasn't in the cards for them. King Nefertari Cobra leaned back in his throne and groaned, rubbing his forehead. Sir, Pell tried, but the king raised his hand in annoyance. No more of this, he said. Leave me. Frowning but bowing, he and Chaka quickly left the throne room and left down the hall, before stopping near an open window. Pell surveyed Alubarna before them, sighing. I wish Igaram were here, he said wistfully. Don't do that, Chaka chastised. You know as well as I he's acting on important orders. Most we can do is hold the line until he comes back. Ah yes, important orders. Ones that Princess Vivi had given only him, before the two disappeared. Pell had entertained the idea in the past that the princess and Igaram had betrayed them, but he refused to believe that. Neither of them were like that, they wouldn't, they couldn't. Captain Pell, a voice shouted. Captain Chaka, come with me. A soldier ran up to them, out of breath. What is it? Pell asked, alarmed. It's Karoo, the soldier shouted, he's returned. Pell's eyes widened at this and, with a quick glance at Chaka, the two followed the soldier back to the throne room. Once they arrived, they burst in to find other soldiers giving the duck water to drink, while the king stroked his head. Nice of you two to join us, the king said. Karoo has returned, bearing a message. The king held up a folded note in his hand. Unfolding it, he lifted it up and read it. His eyes began to widen, and before long he looked up, stunned. No, he said. There's no way. Sir? Chaka asked. What is it? Pell, not wanting to wait, rushed forth and took the note from the king's hands, beginning to read it. Father, I apologize for going so long without speaking to you, but it was of the utmost importance. I will speak quickly, for we don't have time to lament the time we've been apart. For the better part of my time away, I have been undercover. Deep undercover in an organization called Baroque Works. This is an organization of bounty hunters, but it is so much more than that under the surface. Father, I've discovered that this agency are the ones behind the Civil War. They are the ones behind the dance powder incident, and they have been stoking anti-monarchy rhetoric ever since. They have been orchestrating ploys against you for years. But it's so much worse than that, Father. I swear, on my life, that the man leading Baroque Works is the warlord, Crocodile. He's been planning this for years, and it is coming to fruition soon. Very soon. He has countless spies throughout the country, perhaps even in your court. I have returned to the country with powerful allies, and we plan to take him down ourselves. You must refocus your efforts on Rainbase and Crocodile. Secure the borders and let no one escape. This man must be stopped. He's killed innocents. He's killed Igaram. Yes, Igaram is dead, but we may grieve later. Crocodile must be stopped. I will return to you, Father, but only after I've dealt with this menace. You have my word. With love, Vivi Pell stared at the note for what felt like forever, before lifting his head to look at Cobra. Chaka snatched the letter and read it himself, gasping in surprise. For his part, the king of Alabasta looked livid. Damn warlords, he hissed. I knew pirates were nothing but trouble. Pell, Chaka, mobilize the army. We're going after Crocodile. Sir, is that wise? Chaka asked. If Crocodile really does have such an organization working for him, he'll see us coming and flee. I agree, Chaka said. Following Princess Vivi's advice seems smarter. Secure the border, allow no one out. And we should send word to the rebels, Pell added. If we tell them this information, we can add their forces to ours and make sure we catch him. Do you think the rebels will believe us? Cobra asked. They won't. Crocodile is viewed like a hero. Putting the blame on him will only stoke the rebels' anger. And going after him ourselves will do nothing, either, Chaka countered. Pell made a face. As crazy as it sounds, he said, we may have to trust Vivi and her allies. Make Crocodile's fall look like a fight between pirates and a warlord. This made Cobra look pained. Is that really all we can do? He asked. Trust my teenage daughter and some unknown miscreants? Do we have another option? Pell asked. Silence fell on the men in the room. Cobra sighed deeply, rubbing his face. Vivi, my girl, what are you involved in? He asked weakly. Pell, Chaka, we will do as she asked. Secure the borders. Every port must be monitored, and every 100 kilometers there must be scout ships. Order them to fire on any ship trying to leave the country. Pell and Chaka bowed. Is that all, sire? Chaka asked. No, Cobra replied. Looking up, Pell saw the king clenching his fists. Amass a force. We will take Rainbase. It took them a whole day to retrace their steps to Nanohana, but at the very least they got to stop at the Mary and see she was still in one piece. Afterwards, Smoker and Toshigi brought out a dozen Marines to travel with them, and they were on their way. Vivi and her caravan of help set north on their way to Kotoria. So Usopp asked after a while on the road. What exactly should we expect when we get to Kotoria? Lots on people angry with the king, Smoker noted from his camel, puffing on several cigars. Probably a lot of weapons, too. And if they don't let us in? Nijiko asked. They will, Vivi replied, if they tell Koza I'm here. Koza? Yosaku asked. Who's that, big sis Vivi? Vivi sighed, closing her eyes as memories of her childhood played before her. An old friend of mine, she said. If what Toto said to me means anything, Koza has sway with the rebels. He may even be leading them. That's ironic, Nijiko noted as she swung one of her flintlocks around her index finger. A friend of the monarchy leading the rebellion against them. Vivi let out a weak laugh. It would be funny if it wasn't revolting to consider, Vivi said. I know Koza is passionate, but this. I must stop him. And if we can't? Smoker asked. We will, Vivi replied. The Marine captain didn't seem pleased with her response, but he said nothing. They continued on for quite a while, but right before the sun began to set they could see Kotoria in the distance, and what she saw saddened her. The oasis town itself looked normal as possible, but the campsite covered head to toe in tents and weapons was a sad sight to see. She needed to stop this before it got any worse. We need to be careful, Smoker said, eyes on the city. We already know Crocodile has eyes everywhere. They're probably on us right now. Hood up, Vivi, Nijiko advised. Vivi did as she was told and threw the hood up over her head, masking her face from anyone looking. They passed through the gates to town easily enough, and Vivi noticed just how empty Kotoria was. Where were all the townsfolk? Had they fled, or had they joined up with the rebels? Looking forward, she could see the gates to the rebel camp converging with the town. No way out now. How should we approach this? Toshigi asked. Go full Marine authority, or get some disguises and act like we're joining up. If Crocodile had eyes in Kotoria he already knows we're here, Smoker replied. I don't know if hiding will do us any good now. Not to mention one of the agents has our faces, Nijiko muttered. Which means they know what Yosaku, Usopp and I look riti it is, Smoker said. Taking charge with his men, the captain got off his camel at the gate and went straight for the guards. This is Captain Smoker of the Marines. This the rebel headquarters? Stay out of Alabastion business, Captain, one of the two gate guards said grumpily. We can handle ourselves. Even when I can some information you could use, Smoker asked. I wonder how your leaders would react to that. You think we're stupid? The other guard asked. The world government is propping up the Nefertaris. You aren't trying to help us, typical government, not helping the common man, just the royalty. We're getting nowhere with this, Smoker said. Before Vivi could object, Smoker had drawn his jeet and hit both men over the head with it in quick succession, knocking them to the floor. His men quickly moved them out of the way, and Toshigi opened the gate for them. Captain, Vivi said, we didn't need to do that. We've got no time to exchange pleasantries with gate guards, Smoker retaliated. Let's go and find this Koza. He'd make a good pirate, Nijiko muttered under her breath. Leaving their camels, the group went inside the camp and followed Smoker. The captain commanded space as he walked, everyone getting out of his way. Before long they ended up in the center of the camp, before a group of men. Vivi said a man sitting on a bench, and her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't seen him in years, but she could recognize Koza. Same sandy blonde hair, same intense look in his eyes. He seemed to be confronting a child, who looked livid. How many times do I have to say it? Koza demanded. I won't let a child join the rebellion. Why not? The child demanded. I can't fight, I'm not afraid. Which means you're still a stupid kid, Koza retaliated. We're all scared as hell. But we have to fight. Because if we don't fight for us, who will? The king and his men won't. The world government won't. It has to be us. We don't want to fight. The kid looked livid, and he proceeded to stomp his feet in anger before storming off. He sounds like an alright guy, Usopp said. Maybe this will go well? We can hope, Nijiko said. Smoker, seemingly tired of waiting, pushed his way through the crowd, which left them no choice but to follow. You Koza? Smoker demanded as they were now surrounded by the rebels. Koza raised an eyebrow at him. You Marines? He asked. Who the hell let you in here? We let ourselves in, Smoker replied. Your guards will be fine, but he have our reasons. And are they good enough to prevent me from sicking my men on you? Koza demanded. I'll let you figure that out, Smoker said, looking over his shoulder at her. Vivi took a deep breath. Now or never, she stepped forward and lifted her head, revealing her mane of blue hair. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and she saw Koza's eyes widen. Vivi? He asked in surprise. She gave him a sad smile. Koza, she said, I wish we were meeting again under better circumstances. But the king said you disappeared. He muttered quietly. Where did you go? Why are you here? Koza. Before I say anything, I need you to promise to hear me out, okay? Promise me. Koza made a face at this, but he nodded. I'll hear you out, he replied. So Vivi talked. She told Koza of how she'd heard of Baroque works, and how she'd infiltrated their ranks to learn more about them. She told him all about the secrecy and the killing, just to make a point to him. He listened attentively. She told him how she'd learned that the agency was behind the smuggled dance powder, and how the leader Mr. Zero was working behind the shadows of the war to come out on top. It gets worse, though, she said. Mr. Zero is Crocodile. Another round of gasps came from the crowd, accompanied with some shouting. She's lying. Someone shouted, Royal lies, Crocodile is a hero, another said. Koza looked deeply troubled. Vivi, he said. Think about it, Koza, she said. Isn't it odd how everything started to go downhill once Crocodile made his base here? Isn't it odd that there was suddenly so much dissent? Lies being spread about my father? You've met my father. Was he the type of man to do what he's been accused of? Koza looked down at his feet. No, he answered. Exactly, Vivi replied. I swear on my life, Koza. I'm telling the truth. I sent my father the same information I just gave you. It's probably reached him by now, so you'll want to move on him. Don't make the mistake of your life. Would I lie to you about this? Me? Koza's eyes were unreadable behind his glasses. But Vivi hoped his silence meant something good. She took a step towards him and offered him a smile. I swear, Koza, if Crocodile is taken down, we can fix this. The princess speaks the truth, Smoker offered. I've intercepted coded messages between members of this Baroque works, as well as captured some members. They've all confirmed her information. Well, except for Mr. Zero's identity. And are you here on world government orders, Captain? Koza asked him. I'm here to help Alabasta's people, Smoker said coolly. And letting them tear themselves apart doesn't work for me. Koza seemed to consider this, rubbing his chin. All eyes were on him as he thought, clearly his words meaning a lot to the rebels. Big sis Vivi, watch out. Vivi felt a hand connect with her side, pushing her to the ground. Scrambling, she looked up to see what had happened. Yosaku had pushed her to the ground, and had intercepted a man from the group surrounding them. With a swing of his blade's flat edge, Yosaku had taken the man down. A knife clattered out of his hand. Nijiko turned into a blur, appearing with her knee in the man's back as she pressed his face into the dirt with the barrel of her revolver. The rebels started shouting at both the man in question and Nijiko for hurting him, but Koza looked livid. Everyone shut up, he shouted, silencing the rebels. He approached the would-be assassin, kneeling down to glare at him. What the hell do you think you're doing, exactly? She's lying to you, the man shouted, his eyes almost red with rage. The Nefertaris have dried this country up. They all deserve to hang for what they've done. And you think the way to do that is to assassinate her while her back is turned? Koza demanded. A few rebels forced the man to stand and held his arms, but the man seemed to fight them at every turn. Take him away, Koza said. I'll deal with him later. The man was turned around, and as he did so, Vivi's eyes widened. Wait, she shouted. She ran up to Koza, grabbed his arm, and whirled him back to the man. Look at his jacket, Koza. Do you see that? Emblazoned on the back of the man's jacket were a few words, which were, I, heart, Miss Valentine. Miss Valentine is a Baroque works agent, she exclaimed. He's working for Crocodile. The assassin gaped at this, clearly surprised to be found out. I can confirm that, Smoker said. She's one of the agents I captured. Her intel was legitimate. You captured my suite? The assassin shouted angrily. I swear I'll kill both of you. You'll pay for this. Princess, Mr. Zero's world will come to be. Warning the rebels won't be enough to stop him now. Remember my name, Princess, Mr. Love. It's the man who'll kill you one day. I swear it. Mr. Love was dragged away by some other rebels. which left all eyes on Vivi and Koza. Koza looked rattled by what had just happened, rubbing his forehead. "Spies in our ranks," he hissed, looking over at Vivi. "I doubt you'd have orchestrated an assassination attempt to prove your point." "I definitely would not," she replied, realizing now she was out of breath. "I have to speak to our other leaders," he said, "but for now, it's safe to say our offensive is on hold. I have a lot to think about." Vivi smiled at this, glad that she'd gotten through to him. "Thank you, Koza," she said, "I swear you won't regret this." "I hope not," he replied. "Listen, come and see me later, okay? I want to hear your story again, and I want all the details." "Okay. I'll find you," she said. Nodding, Koza walked off and gestured for a few other people to follow him, who did. They all entered the tent he'd been sitting in front of before, and the flap closed behind them. Now left confused, the rest of the rebels began to mill about aimlessly. Some approached Vivi and apologized for doubting her father, while others clearly still had doubts and kept their distance. She was fine with that. At least she put a hold on the offensive. "Thank you, Yosaku," she said as she turned to the bald swordsman. "You saved my life." The man blushed at this and let out a small laugh. "It was nothing, big sis," he said. "Zoro always teaches us to be aware of our surroundings, so I noticed him sneaking up. It was nothing." "Teaches you that but can't find his way out of a wet paper bag," Najiko noted, making Vivi laugh. "Now what?" Usopp asked. "Do we just wait for Koza and his allies to make up their mind?" "I guess so," Vivi replied, "and we hope that the others aren't caught yet." The city of Rainbase was pretty much the opposite of the rest of Alabasta. Where the country looked poor, Rainbase was rich. Where the country was dry, Rainbase had an overabundance of water. And situated in the center of town was the most glamorous building of all, a massive golden pyramid with a crocodile head on top sitting in the middle of a lake. It was a casino known as Rain Dinners. Owned and operated by an unknown, at least to most. To the Straw Hats, it was Crocodile's secret base. "So how do we get in?" Nami asked, staring at the golden croc head at the top. She and the others were hiding in a nearby alleyway, spying on the entrance. "If Crocodile doesn't know we're already here, then he will if we go in," Marianne said from beside her, sitting on a barrel. "He's probably just waiting us out." "So we storm the front door," Zoro reasoned. "Can we not do that?" Johnny asked weakly. "That might be bad for our health." "Do we have another plan of attack?" Sanji asked. No one answered. "Well, we'd better come up with one, or else we storm in there." Another 10 minutes of staring at Rain Dinners did not provide the crew with an answer to their problem, and Nami was sure Luffy was about to lose it. He'd been looking rather annoyed for the last 5 of those minutes, and now he looked ready to burst. "I'm going in," the captain finally said, Nami grabbing his hat to stop him. Had it been anyone else she was sure they'd have been punched. But Luffy just looked annoyed at her. "Give it back, Nami," he said. "Not until you promise to not rush in there," she said calmly. Luffy looked even more annoyed now, but he swore under his breath and nodded. Nami tossed it back to him and he slammed it over his head, grumbling to himself. "So no ideas?" Zoro asked. "Glad we left all the thinkers to the rebels." "I'm here," Chopper shouted in indignation. "I am a thinker." "Got a plan then?" Zoro asked. Chopper said nothing. Thought so. I'm with Luffy. We get in there and raise hell." "I keep telling you, that's stupid," Marianne replied, pulling on her hat as a group of men wandered past the alley. "Crocodile has got to know we're here. And none of us would stand a chance." "Is he that strong?" Sanji asked. "Do you lot know nothing about him?" Marianne asked. No one replied, making her sigh. "Yes, Crocodile is that strong. His devil fruit is a logia type." "Logic type?" Luffy asked. "What does that mean?" "Logia," Marianne corrected. "It's the type of devil fruit that gives them elemental powers." "Like Captain Smoker," Johnny reasoned. "Crocodile has sand powers," Marianne said. "The average fighter can't hurt him. All our attacks will just pass through him." "Like Smokey?" Luffy demanded. "That's annoying. What do we do about that?" "Well, they're weak to water, but—" Marianne stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. "Oh. Well, we could do that, but with those of us here, I'm not sure." "Speak up," Zoro said. "What are you thinking?" Marianne made a face. "It's a long shot," she said, "but Rain Dinners is situated on an lake. What would happen if we, theoretically, sank it? The crew around her slowly realized what she was talking about. Sank it? Johnny asked. But how would we even do that? That's the only issue, Marianne replied. But if we send it to the bottom of the lake, we could force Crocodile out, and then, we'd be on a more even playing field. We wouldn't be walking into his trap. And how do we do that? Sanji asked as he puffed his cigarette. We don't have any explosives on us. We don't need them, Nami said as she jabbed her thumb at Luffy. Remember Arlong Park? Luffy took that building down. Combine his strength with all of yours, and we should be able to topple the building. What about the people inside? Johnny asked quickly. How do we get them out? I've got an idea for that, Sanji said. Johnny hated the plan. Do you forgive me, Johnny? Luffy asked preemptively. Johnny nodded, gulping. Of course, big bro, he exclaimed, you can do whatever you need to. Luffy slammed his fist into Johnny's face, leaving him dazed. He could already feel blood rushing out of his nose. Ow, he mumbled weakly as Luffy released him. Remember what to do, Johnny? Nami asked. Johnny nodded numbly. Run inside and say the rebels are planning on attacking the casino, he said. You guys barge in and start raising hell to prove my point. Everyone clears out, then we take the building down. Exactly, Nami said. Now, it seems obvious to say, but a pyramid's structural integrity is all at the base. You deal enough damage to the supports, and the rest comes crashing down on top. And seeing as Rain Dinners isn't built on a small island, it all crashes into the lake, Sanji finished, smoking Crocodile out. Exactly, Nami said. She then peered out of the alley at the pyramid. Judging from the look of that croc head on top of it, the weight up top is already quite a lot. You hear some rumbling, get out quick. Got it, Luffy said with a big smile. And you be ready. Okay, Nami? Nami gripped her new tool tightly, nodding at the captain. Ready to go, Johnny? No, Johnny admitted, but I had to go anyway. Good man. Luffy shouted, for taking that punch. I name you our #1 cabin boy. It's an honor, big bro. It really isn't, Sanji noted. One more thing, Nami said. While you guys are in there, could you maybe rob them? Casinos are always loaded. Everyone stared at Nami in disbelief, who fidgeted under their scrutiny. What? We're already committing an act of terror, we may as well rob them too. You're all insane, Marianne said. This was your plan, Zoro said pointedly. Fair, she replied. Get going, Nami shouted. Jumping, Johnny sprinted out of the alley and towards the front door of the casino, where some guards were waiting. Stop, one of them shouted, no entry without paying a fee, stop. Help, Johnny shouted as he wiped blood from his face and got it all over himself. Help, the rebels are going to attack the casino. The guards' eyes widened at this, and Johnny used their surprise to slip past them and get inside. Once he was in, he spared a moment to marvel at all the fancily dressed people inside. Vivi had been right. Rainbase was being spared the worst of the conflict. Everyone, he shouted as loud as he could. The rebels are going to attack. You're all in danger. Get out. His words caused some confusion, but soon the chaos to back him up arrived. Luffy's fist stretched past him and hit a row of slot machines, crushing and toppling them. He heard his captain laugh manically. Destroy the casino. Luffy shouted, destroy this symbol of the elite's privilege. Had someone else given Luffy that line? It was a good one. Together with Zoro and Sanji, Luffy jumped inside and began tearing everything up. Machines went flying, pillars were destroyed, and walls were caved in. The people inside seemed to finally take the hint, screaming and running for the door. Johnny quickly got out of the wall, and watched as the crowd nearly trampled the guards trying to get in. Seems like the plan had worked. Good work, Johnny. Zoro shouted. Now help us tear this place up. Of course, big bro, Johnny said, drawing Tsutomakura. He went to work quickly, hacking and slashing at the pillars around the ground floor as Luffy and Sanji went to work on the walls. After a while, he managed to work his way to the main counter. Looking over it, he saw a safe sitting there. He thought to himself, big sis Nami would appreciate it a lot if I did some robbing. Deciding it was worth the effort, he jumped over the counter and prepared his blade, ramming in straight into the lock of the safe. Tsutomakura cleaved right through, making Johnny pleased with himself. He ripped open the door, which revealed wads of berries secured with rubber bands. He quickly grabbed some and worked them into his pockets, before going back to work on the pillars. He could see Zoro doing the stairs, and Luffy was working on support beams in the walls. It didn't take long until rain dinners began to shudder. "We're doing good," Luffy shouted, "just a little more." "Didn't Big Sis Nami say to run at the shuttering?" Johnny asked. "What does she know?" Luffy demanded. "A lot, huh? Well, screw it, just a little more." Johnny wasn't a fan of that order, but he complied all the same. Still, he positioned himself closer to the door just in case. Before long, rain dinners shuddered harder, and large bits of debris came falling from the roof. "Let's get out of here," Sanji shouted, "it's all coming down." "Everyone out," Luffy ordered. Johnny happily complied, sprinting out the door and across the bridge to safety near the crowd. He turned just in time to see the others leave through the front door, and they all looked up at the casino. The entire building was shuddering and, before long, the ground around them began to shake. And the bottom floor collapsed. Johnny watched as the ground floor was crushed by the second floor. The resulting shock destroyed the supports the building had below it and, in one swift, crashed into the waves below. The water heaved from the crash, throwing up a massive wave on top of everyone who'd remained nearby. Most fled, but Johnny and the others were too close to get away. All he could do was hold hid breathe as the waves assaulted them. Soon enough, it died down, and he opened his eyes to see nothing but the disturbed surface of the lake. Well, that and Bananawani angrily breaching the surface. "Good job, boys," Luffy said. "Mission destroy a casino is complete." "I'm surprised no guards have come for us," Sanji noted as he irritably tossed his damp cigarette away. "Well, what's done is done. Now, where's our friend? Did he just drown?" "I'm surprised you went for that route, Straw Hat," a voice said. Johnny and the others turned to see Ems All Sunday standing nearby, smiling innocently at them. She was still wearing her stylish cowgirl outfit. "What are you doing here?" Luffy demanded. "Where the hell is Crocodile?" "Oh, he's over there," Ms. All Sunday said, pointing. Looking in the direction she pointed, Johnny saw a dust devil spawning there. No, it wasn't a dust devil, it was an absurd amount of sand. The sand slowly began to form itself into the shape of a man, taller and imposing. It formed a claw in the place a left hand should have been. Before long the sand solidified, and a man was standing there. It was Crocodile, and he looked so livid he nearly bit through his cigar. "How is it at every turn my plans have been foiled by a bunch of teenagers gallivanting as pirates?" he demanded. "Has my help been this useless? No matter. I will crush all of you, right here, right now." "Funny," Luffy said as he stretched his arms. "I was about to say the same to you. We won't let you have this country." Crocodile let out a laugh. An odd sound, but it sent a chill down Johnny's spine nonetheless. "Your ignorance precedes you," he said. "Look around, Straw Hat. You're the villain here." Johnny spared a moment to look around them, only to find that Crocodile was right. The crowd of people from the casino was watching from the sidelines, and they didn't look happy. "Crush those rebels, Crocodile," someone shouted. "Show them why you're the hero of Alabasta. Take the fight to their leaders." "You see," Crocodile asked, "no one sees you as liberators. They see you as the enemy. One I will crush to further my own agenda. Couple that with the rest of my plan, and taking this country for myself might be easier than I thought." Crocodile raised his real hand and gestured towards them. "So come, Straw Hats. Let us see what this new blood is worth." "What the hell do you mean, gone?" Chaka demanded angrily. The soldiers reporting to him faltered a bit at his rage, but still managed to say it again. "Exactly that, sir," the soldier shouted. "The king wasn't anywhere in his chambers, or the castle. We're searching Alubarna, but we haven't seen him yet. With Pell on his way to Rainbase, command falls to you." Chaka growled at this and slammed his hand into the wall nearby. What the hell was happening around here these days? "Fortify the city," he instructed. "Keep a small squad searching, but otherwise lock the city down. Something is afoot." "Sir," the soldiers he ordered scampered off, leaving him alone in the throne room. Growling, Chaka turned and looked at the empty throne angrily. What the hell was happening? It had been an hour or so since Koza had disappeared with his advisors, and in that time Vivi had been waiting impatiently. She knew decisions like this took time, but it was just making her more and more anxious. And then, it had all vanished when a soldier came to her and said Koza had called for her. She followed the soldier through the camp, all her anxiety washing away. The decision had been made, one way or the other. She could only hope it was in her favor. She reached the tent she had seen him disappear into earlier, and was given the permission to enter. As she did so, she saw it was just her and Koza inside. Any trace of his advisors was gone. He looked up as she entered, giving her a tired smile. "Vivi," he said as he turned to her, "thank you for coming so quick." "Of course," she said. "What have you and your advisors come to?" Koza made a face at this and ran a hand through his sandy hair. "It's not easy to convince a bunch of rebels that a royal is telling the truth," he said, "but I did my best." "Does that mean you believe me?" Vivi asked, "that I didn't come here peddling lies to save my father?" "Yes," he replied, "I do. I know you, Vivi. You wouldn't lie about this." "Did your allies believe you?" she asked. Koza sighed. "It varies," he replied. "Some are skeptical, some don't at all, and some do. The only thing we've agreed on is pausing our campaign." Vivi let out a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Koza," she said. "You don't know how much that means to me." "I know it means a lot," he said. "You're the princess. This country means the world to you." There was a stretch of silence before Koza chuckled. "Never thought we'd end up in this situation back in the old days, huh?" Vivi, too, laughed. "Never," she agreed. "But then again, we never could have imagined this before." Koza nodded. "Yeah," he agreed. "I certainly couldn't." He paused, then said, "Vivi, that stuff you said about Baroque works, was it all true?" "Every word," she replied. "Ikram is dead?" Vivi fought back her tears. "Yes," she answered. "I have no clue how someone could survive that explosion." Koza frowned at the ground. "Damn it all," he hissed before looking back at her. "I'm sorry you had to go through all of that. All to find out who our enemy really is." "At least I'm not dead yet," she said. "That's a bonus, right?" "It is," he agreed. "Thanks to those pirates you're palling around with, I guess. Are they good people? Can we trust them?" Vivi nodded with a smile. "We can," she said as she thought back to the chaos on board the Going Merry. "They may be pirates, but to call them that overshadows their good hearts. They're more heroes than pirates." "Lucky you happened upon such a group," he replied, making her nod. Vivi hoped no one on the crew died doing this for her. She'd never be able to forgive herself if they did. "I'm very lucky," she agreed with a small smile. "So, what do we do now?" Koza crossed his arms. "I suppose we come up with a plan to toss Crocodile into the sea," he said, "but first, did anyone your allies with go to Rain Base?" Vivi nodded. "They did," she replied. "The captain of the crew and his strongest fighters went to confront Crocodile." "Why?" Koza made a face. "That explains it," he muttered. "I received a report from our agents there during our meeting." Koza gestured to a transponder snail sitting on the desk nearby. "Apparently some lugs calling themselves the rebels burst into rain dinners." "They did?" Vivi asked. Koza nodded. "And then they crashed it into the lake it sits on," Koza said. Vivi stared at him in surprise. "They did?" she asked. He nodded. "I'd have called you out on that if they weren't fighting Crocodile in the middle of the town," Koza said. "He appeared out of the wreckage and is fighting them." "How is it going?" Vivi asked worriedly. Koza shrugged his shoulders. "I don't know, I haven't gotten an update on that yet," he said. "We can only hope it goes well." Vivi made a face and looked at the ground. She was sure Luffy and the others would be fine. "I see," she murmured. "They'll be fine." Koza tried to reassure her. "Once we gather our forces, we can send reinforcements that way up the river. Then, we can take Crocodile down and stop this plot once and for." Koza. Vivi and Koza turned as a soldier burst into the tent, nearly tripping on his own feet. "What?" Koza asked, sounding irritated. "It's the king," the man shouted. "He's appeared in Nanohana." Both Koza and Vivi gasped at this. "What is he doing?" Vivi asked. The soldier gave her a somewhat dirty look before turning back to Koza. He and his soldiers are destroying everything. He took responsibility for the Dis soldiers to attack." Vivi stared at the soldier in shock before she cast a glance at Koza. The man looked livid, glaring at the ground with his fists clenched. "Koza." She tried weakly. "Say nothing," he replied to her. "You and your crew will come with me to Nanohana. and we'll stop your mad father in his tracks." "Koza, I swear," Vivi shouted, "this has to be a mistake, my father would never." "Get your crew and follow me," he shouted at her. "I'll see for myself what's happening." Koza stormed from the tent, leaving Vivi by herself. Growling, she clenched her fists and followed after him. "What have you done now, Crocodile?" The ride from Kotoria to Nanohana was swift and chaotic. Vivi and her allies had been given horses to ride and, together with Koza and a battalion of rebels, flew towards Nanohana as fast as the horses could carry them. Vivi spurred her horse faster when she saw black smoke on the horizon. What could Crocodile have to do with this? He has to be behind it, right? Father surely wouldn't. "Princess." Vivi was knocked from her train of thought as Smoker called to her. "Stay close once we get to Nanohana. Keeping you safe is a priority." "Your priority should be saving the citizens," Vivi shouted back. Smoker watched her irritably. "I said a priority," Smoker said. "If this is a part of Crocodile's plan, agents will be on the lookout for you." Begrudgingly acknowledging the captain's position, Vivi returned her gaze to the back of Koza's head as they rode. He hadn't said a word to any of them since they'd left Kotoria, just furiously riding ahead of everyone else. She didn't even want to approach him, for fear of aggravating him even more. They'd been so close, Crocodile couldn't mess this up now. It didn't take long to reach Nanohana after seeing the smoke, and Vivi's worst fears were confirmed. The port city was on fire, and people were scrambling everywhere. They passed easily through the streets, following the sounds of the chaos. It didn't take long for them to reach it. And Vivi could no believe what she saw. There, just as she remembered him, was her father. And there he stood, ordering soldiers to sack the city and set it alight. But she could not comprehend it. It couldn't be possible, right? Her father would never do this. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't real. And yet it was. "Cobra," Koza shouted, bringing her back to reality. She watched Koza dismount his horse and storm towards her father, who watched him indifferently. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "I came to apologize for the drought," her father replied, as if that was obvious. "Lovely way to apologize," Najiko muttered. "Father," Vivi shouted, getting his attention. She saw his eyes widen in recognition, but he masked it quickly. "What are you doing? Why are you attacking our own people?" Her father was silent for a moment, before he turned away from her. "Because the only way to solve the water issue is to reduce the number of mouths that need it," he answered. "Surely you understand, daughter of mine. We simply can't fill all these mouths." "That's ridiculous," she shouted back angrily. "This isn't you, what happened to you?" Before anyone could say another word, screams resounded through town. "A boat's going to crash into port," someone shouted. "Run away from the water," someone else shouted. Vivi and the others turned their heads and watched in shock as a massive cruiser of a ship steamed ahead, no intention of stopping. "Bawahaha!" Her father laughed, a massive evil grin on his face. It was so wrong, so not him. But where had she seen it before? "Sorry for causing you grief, my dear. But this is simply the way things have to be, do you understand?" "You bastard!" Koza hissed, clenching his fists. A quick glance at him would show the rebel was practically glowing with rage. "After all this time, you really were behind it. You let all those people die. You let them all die waiting for rain. Who could you do this to your own people? They all believed in you, until their last breath, and this is how you repay your people." "My people?" her father asked, his grin getting even wider. "They aren't my people, they're my subjects. They should be honored to die for me." Vivi should have been horrified by his words, but her mind was running into overdrive. She had seen that face before, she knew she had. But where? Where had she seen that damn expression before? It had been somewhere. "My dear pirate friends, I cannot thank you enough for your help." What Vivi did next happened so fast she thought Najiko had done it at first. She turned, reached for the flintlock holstered at the girl's hip, drew it, and whipped around to aim it at her father. And fired. The bullet flew straight for the king's face, her father's face, but missed by an inch and only cut into the skin of his right cheek. Once he realized he'd been hit, her father raised his right hand to hold his cheek. And Vivi was proven right. Instantaneously, her father's face morphed into that of Mr. 2, Bon Clay. At first no one reacted, but soon Mr. 2 realized what had happened. "Ah!" he shouted, "and no, don't look over here, I'm still King Cobra Nefertari. I'm still the leader of this nation. Please don't worry about what you just saw. What the hell? Koza asked weakly. The king just. Koza, she shouted, that isn't my father. He's an agent from Baroque Works. He has the ability to copy people's faces. I've seen him do it. Crocodile sent him here to do this. Vivi was relieved to see the rage subside from her friend's face somewhat. Damn it all, he hissed, I almost. Koza growled and stared at the ground, while Mr. 2 looked positively livid. How unlucky can one be? He shouted, that the ship that saved me from drowning had you on it. Princess Vivi? No matter. Do you think you've stopped anything? Mr. Zero will accomplish his goals. After all, surely you realize what it means if I have your father's face in my arsenal. Vivi had opted not to think about it. She watched as Mr. 2 cackled and ran away, the soldiers that were presumably Baroque Works millions following him. Should we give chase? Nijiko asked. We have a bigger problem right now. Yosaku shouted. Vivi turned, eyes widening as she realized how close the cruiser had gotten to the shore. Run, she shouted, that ship is going to hit the port. She and the others barely had time to go a block further into Nanohana before a horrific crunch filled her ears, and Vivi was thrown to the ground from the impact. Nijiko was more than a little dazed. The chaos in Nanohana had not stopped simply because a ship had crashed into the port, as fires and looting still raged around them. Are you guys okay? A familiar voice rasped. It was then she noticed a mass on top of her, and she took in the situation around her. Usopp, Yosaku and herself had been near each other as they ran from the shoreline. As the ship impacted and tore down buildings in its path, debris had begun to fall on them. And in that moment, Yosaku had thrown himself on top of Usopp and herself, and then debris fell on top of him. Yosaku, are you okay? She asked, alarmed. He let out a weak laugh. Never better, he replied. Just making sure you guys don't get hurt. You're my hero, Yosaku, Usopp cried. I really thought we were done for. No problem, big bro, Yosaku replied. Sadly, I can't bear the weight. We're stuck until someone clears it. Awa. Smoke strike. Suddenly, the weight on top of Nijiko's shoulders lessened considerably. Looking to the side, she watched as the debris holding them down shattered around them, allowing Yosaku to stand and free them. Once the trio had gotten free, Nijiko looked to see who had freed them. Odd of you to save a bunch of pirates, she noted to Smoker, who was standing nearby. Don't bet on it happening again, he said. We've got more important things to worry about right now. She knew that. Looking past Smoker and Toshigi, Nijiko could see Vivi kneeling next to Koza, speaking to him quietly. She had no clue what she's saying, but it was probably motivation. Koza. Nijiko turned, watching a large group of rebels running towards them, led by the people she assumed were the rebel leaders besides Koza. Some splinters of the group ran off, helping the people and put out fires. What the hell happened? The man in front asked. Did the king do this? Koza was silent at this, not saying anything. Koza, another shouted. What happened here? Why would the king? The king didn't do it, Koza shouted, startling everyone. Damn it all, it wasn't the king. We were almost fooled again. I was almost fooled again. Koza got to his feet, clenching. Did I ever doubt him? He shouted to no one in particular. Of course it wasn't him. He's not that kind of man. Damn it. Everyone watched silently as Koza ranted, before he grew silent again. He turned to his advisors, grimacing. We've been duped this whole time, he said. I've got no time to explain right now, but what I do know is the king isn't behind this. He never was. We need to deal with this chaos and regroup. We've been fighting the wrong man. Can you at least try to explain? One of them asked weakly. Koza's frown deepened. Later. First, we need to secure Nanohana. Eric, make sure no one's trapped under that ship, and clear it out. Kobe, help put out these fires. Okami, secure a safe place for the citizens to gather. We need to spread the truth to them. Confused but understanding, the three moved out to carry out his orders. Koza sighed, rubbing his eyes. It's all true, he hissed under his breath. Crocodile, Baroque Works. You really weren't lying, Vivi. Vivi made a sad face. No, she said, I wasn't. What should we do now? Toshigi asked. Do we give chase to that man dressed as the king? He'd be long gone, Smoker replied. Koza is right. We save Nanohana first, then decide what to do. Toshigi, gather the men. We have work to do. The marine captain and his ensign ran off to help, leaving the crew alone with Koza. The man sighed again, his shoulders. I should have known better, he muttered. King Cobra would never do something like this. I knew that, but I couldn't just keep letting people die of thirst. I couldn't. It's okay, Koza, Vivi said, rubbing his back. You're a good man. You stood up for what you believed in, as does every strong leader. Exactly, Nijiko said. You made decisions based on what you knew. I don't think I would make a different decision in your shoes. You're so brave, Koza. Yosaku agreed with tears in his eyes. To stand up for the common man, I admire that. Yeah, Usopp agreed. Don't you worry. We've got allies fighting Crocodile as we speak. He won't get away with hurting this country. Koza watched them all with a small smile, turning to Vivi. You have such amazing allies, he said. Vivi smiled fondly at the trio, nodding. I do, she said. Let's hope your allies can deal with Crocodile as we finish with this mess, he said. Because we have a lot of work to do. What the hell do you mean? Chaka shouted angrily. Sir, the timeline matches, the guard reporting to him shouted. The king has been missing for some time now, and now he's in Nanohana. It makes sense. It makes no sense, Chaka shouted back. No, the King Cobra he knew would never have done something like this. He would never harm his own citizens. Whether or not, sir, it changes nothing, the scout said. The news has spread like wildfire, and the people want answers. We have to. The sound of a transponder snail going off stunned the men in the war room into silence. Chaka stared at it in surprise before he growled and rushed to pick it up. What? He demanded angrily. Well, I expected a nicer response than that, the voice on the other line said. Who is this? Chaka demanded. This is a secure line. You're speaking to Chaka of the Alabastion army. I know, the voice replied. I was given this line by Vivi. It's Koza, the leader of the rebellion. Chaka's eyes widened and he stared into space, digesting what he'd just heard. What? He asked weakly. A bit slow on the uptake, huh? Koza asked. No time. Listen, Chaka, and listen well. We knows the king is missing. Because we just saw his doppelganger making a mess of things here in Nanohana. The doppelganger? Chaka asked. Yeah, which means neither of us know where the real king is, but listen closely. Vivi's assured me you know all about Baroque works and Crocodile by now, so we can skip over that and just say that his organization was behind this. And we both know he's in Rainbase, but here's something you may not know, allies of the princess are in Rainbase fighting him right now. If you don't know that, then that's because Baroque Works has stifled your communication network. After we're done dealing with all of the chaos here in Nanohana, we'll sail up the Sandora River and join you in Alubarna. Regardless of the events in Rainbase, it will be Crocodile's main target, understood? Chaka stared in silence as he attempted to digest this information, but it wasn't easy at all. Finally, he managed to choke out a few words. Are you saying the rebellion is over, Koza? He asked weakly. Koza made a gruff sound. Yeah, it is. But this war isn't, not until we take down Crocodile. Chaka stared down at the transponder snail as Koza hung up, not sure what to say. Chaka, sir? A soldier asked. Chaka, what are your orders? Chaka didn't say anything at first before gathering his courage. The same, he said. Defend the city at all costs. Also, send a battalion down to the docks of the Sandora. Koza is coming to help us. The leader of the rebellion? One asked. But why, Chaka sir, what is happening? Chaka let out a weak laugh. I don't know either, but we aren't out of the woods just yet. Robin watched the battle against the Straw Hats with limited interest. It was interesting to see the strategies they came up with to defeat him, but for the most part it was a one-sided smackdown. Not very interesting to watch. She flinched as the swordsman with the tattoo on his face was repelled and sent flying through a window. Yeah, this was going about as well as she'd guessed. No bother. She hadn't hoped for much anyway. You there? Robin turned as a massive falcon landed on the rooftop next to her, morphing into a person who glared at her. He had a sack of some kind on his back, concealing something quite massive. You must be Pell, she said. I've heard so much about you. And you, demon child, he replied. Robin tried not to grimace at her alias. Or do you prefer Nico Robin? Well, I don't care. How quaint, she said. Do you have business with me, Pell? Don't play coy, he snarled. I can see Crocodile down there plain as day. Oh, I suppose I should mention that the princess got a letter through to us detailing his plan. We know all about Baroque works, and Crocodile. It doesn't take a genius to see him and you are connected. Why else would you be here? And what do you plan on doing with that information? She asked innocently. First, Pell replied, I'm going to prevent your escape. Then, I'm going to help those pirates. I can only assume they're allies of the princess. Bold assumption. And yet one that makes sense, he said. Do you plan on telling me otherwise? Nope, she said as she turned to face him fully, but I do not intend on letting you take me into custody. There was a moment of silence between the two, punctuated only by the sounds of combat below. One more thing, Pell said darkly. Igaram, is he dead? Who? Robin asked. Oh, do you mean Mr. 8? Yes, he's dead. Very much so, I'd say. Pell's expression darkened. In the briefest of seconds, it started. Pell transformed into a human, falcon hybrid, using his wings to charge her and swing his blade at her. Robin brought her hands up and, using her powers, forced Pell's blade out of the way of her, making it swing way away from her. Pell stared in surprise as the arm and hand disappeared into a flurry of petals. What kind of power is this? He demanded as he turned to face her. I'm sure you know that telling you serves me no purpose, Robin replied. Pell grimaced at this, at least Robin thought it was a grimace, it was hard to tell with a beak, and charged her again. Robin dodged him by spawning legs underneath her own, kicking off of them and to the side. Raising her hands again, she created two arms on Pell's body that fought for control of his blade. Pell tried to keep it out of their grasp, but that was no easy feat. Growling, he threw his sword back into its sheath and took flight, flying far away from her. Robin watched him with interest, wondering what his plan war answer when Pell revealed Gatling guns. Seems that's what he'd been hiding. Thinking quickly, Robin jumped off of the building as the bullets began to fly, using her power to spawn arms off of the building wall, grabbed herself and flung into the top floor window. She listened intently as bullets flew, hitting the building and even inside of the window, but none reached her. It's sad, really, she said to herself over the gunfire as she raised her hands. You may be an incredible warrior, Pell, but what can you do against me? She peered out the window and caught a glimpse of Pell flying. And hands spawned around his neck and wings, holding them firm. Clutch. This had not gone at all the way Luffy had thought it would. He knew that Crocodile would be a tough fight, but this was something else. Nothing was even working. Johnny had already been taken out. He'd been flung through a window recently and hadn't reappeared. Sanji and Zoro were still fighting with him, but it didn't matter. Sanji had been consumed by a sandstorm and flung a whole block away, while Zoro was struggling to get back to his feet with Luffy. Crocodile laughed as Luffy got to his feet, cracking his knuckles. You really came into the Grand Line with a power level this low? Crocodile asked. This is pathetic. Raising his hand, Crocodile's hook disconnected from his arm with a sandy explosion and flew at Luffy, who dodged it and centered his weight. Gum Gum Pistol. His fist flew straight at Crocodile's head and flew right through it, once again not doing anything. The man's mouth remained as sand reformed his head, laughing again. Keep trying, he insisted, I'm sure this will work eventually. Luffy was already having a hard time thinking, but the roaring of the crowd cheering for Crocodile didn't help. Where the hell was Nami? Zoro, he shouted, have you figured out how to cut sand yet? How about I make you pound sand? Zoro demanded. Of course I haven't. Get on that. Zoro looked beyond irritated that he would suggest this, but didn't say a word back. Just as Luffy was about to go at Crocodile again, he saw her. He saw Nami's mane of ginger hair behind Crocodile, masked into the crowd. She raised her new weapon and nodded at him, making him smirk. Good, she was finally ready. This had been the plan all along. Now he just needed to keep Crocodile distracted. What the hell is your problem? Luffy demanded. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Crocodile asked loudly so the crowd could hear. Stopping rebels from destroying Rainbase. Because I must if the king won't. What a failure of a leader. The crowd cheered at this, which Luffy could guess was bad, but he'd worry about that later. You know what I meant, he growled. Why are you trying to take his country for your own? Crocodile made a face at him, and Luffy felt a tug on his shirt. Crocodile's hook had grabbed his shirt and pulled him in, getting him right in the face of the mad warlord. A better question would be, Crocodile demanded, why do you care? You're a pirate. You have no attachment to these people. And yet, you decide to get in my way. Just like everyone else. You and your crew, that damn princess and Mr. 8, crazy old men in Yuba. You all just insist on making my work harder than it should be. Luffy was ready to give a witty retort, but he froze. What did you say about old men in Yuba? He asked. Crocodile gave him a wicked grin. Tell me, Straw Hat Luffy, Crocodile asked, leaning in so close Luffy could smell nothing but his cigar. Don't you think it's odd that sandstorms would assault a city so normally? After all, they aren't that regular. Luffy's eyes widened as he remembered what Crocodile had used to throw Sanji away. His blood began to boil. You bastard, he hissed as he remembered the old man digging deep into the dirt for water. You did that? Crocodile snorted. What if I did? He asked lowly. Look around, Straw Hat. The people love me. I am the hero of this place. Around now, the king will have attacked Nanohana, getting the rebels worked up to attack Alubarna. And I'll join them once I'm done here. But I ask again. What is this to you? Why do you care? Luffy gritted his teeth in rage, but managed to spit out a few words as Nami snuck up being Crocodile. A few reasons, he replied angrily. I care about Vivi, and she cares about this country. You're a warlord, so taking you down benefits me. But mostly we were promised a boatload of money, Nami. Whirlpool Tempo. Nami's new weapon, given to her by Usopp, was pointed straight at Crocodile. And water exploded out of the end, drenching both Crocodile and Luffy. The warlord growled and turned to find the source, but Nami had disappeared back into the crowd. What the hell was that? He demanded, Luffy cackling to himself. Nothing much, he said, just a friend of mine. Gum pistol. Luffy stretched his arm back and flung it straight at Crocodile's head. And it connected. Luffy heard a satisfying crunch as his fist connected with Crocodile, sending him flying backwards and freeing him. The crowd looked distraught at this. He managed to hit Sir Crocodile. How is that possible? No one's ever done that. Luffy grinned as Crocodile got up from the ground, looking positively livid. Sorry Croc, he said with a laugh. I think you needed a bath. Crocodile stood back up, sand whipping around him. I will kill you, Straw Hat, he said. Luffy grinned. Try me, he replied. The plan against Crocodile was devious in its simplicity. Luffy and the others quickly realized that the destruction of rain dinners wouldn't take him out in and of itself. It would simply force him out so they didn't have to go to him. This was where Nami came in. While on the way to Alabasta from Drum, Usopp had created a weapon for Nami, which he called the Kleem attack. Combining the staff in different combinations allowed Nami to create different elemental reactions, including a jet of salt water. Luffy and the others didn't know a lot about how Logia powers worked, but Luffy could only assume it worked similarly to his own, and that water countered him. So the plan was simple. Once Crocodile was out in the open, get Nami in position to spray him, and that's exactly what they did. Crocodile was now doused with water from the navigator, who disappeared back into the crowd watching the fight. He looked livid from the disrespect, but Luffy didn't care. Sanji, he shouted, Johnny, get out here already. Oh on it, big bro, a voice called from somewhere behind him. If you had a brain in your head, you'd see I'm already here, Sanji said, looking annoyed he had been ignored as he reappeared. Crocodile reached up and cracked his neck. I don't have time to deal with you lot, he hissed. I'll finish this now. I was gonna say the same, Luffy shouted. Let's get him. With this the Straw Hats charged him. But Crocodile raised his hand before any of them could do anything. Sables, he shouted, a sandstorm spawning from his hand. The storm enveloped Luffy and the others, making it impossible to see anything. Luffy tried to plant himself firmly on the ground, but the wind picked up and, in the blink of an eye, he was flying through the air. He tried to right himself, but he found it impossible to tell which was up or down. It felt like a few minutes later the wind died down, and he felt himself falling. Once his eyesight cleared, he looked to see where he was. He was a couple 100 feet above the desert outside Rainbase, falling fast. What the hell happened? Sanji shouted from somewhere nearby in the sky. He flung us out of the city, Zoro shouted, bastard. "Everyone get ready," Luffy shouted, scanning the sky for his crew. Once he saw them, he shot his arms out and grabbed them as quickly as he could, holding them tightly as he stretched his legs and hit the ground. It was a harder landing than he'd have liked, but it still worked. He settled himself and the crew on the ground, just in time to see a cloud of sand approaching them. "Let go of me." Luffy's eyes widened as the sand settled across from them, gritting his teeth. Crocodile had found Nami, and was holding her tightly against his claw hand. "It was a cute idea, Straw Hat," he said as he tightened his grip on the navigator. "But you should have had someone better than a raccoon and that shitty painter protect her." "What did you do to them?" Luffy demanded angrily. "Nothing too bad," Crocodile replied. "I just absorbed all the moisture in Ms. Goldenweek's arms and the raccoon's legs. Now, unless you want your comrade to meet the same fate, you'll lower your weapons." Luffy gritted his teeth angrily, eyes on Nami. She was terrified, but kept her composure as her eyes met his. She shook her head quickly, but Luffy had no idea how to fight this with her captive. He heard Zoro and Johnny lower their blades, growling to themselves. "Let her go," Johnny said, trying to sound threatening. "Or what?" Crocodile asked, the hook dangerously close to Nami's throat. "That's the difference between us, Straw Hats. You'll let this relationship hold you back from defeating me. Your care for this woman will defeat you. Even though I've been led down time and again by some of my agents, I'll still win. Do you know why? Because I don't need any of them to win. You're different. Without this witch, you have no way to beat me. Why don't you put her down and we can find out?" Luffy asked, trying to sound tough. "Or are you scared you can't beat us 1 versus 5? Crocodile glowered, and grabbed a hold of Nami's right arm. And it was mummified. Nami screeched in pain as the moisture from her arm disappeared, making Luffy's stomach turn. He'd already done this to Marianne and Chopper. Nami's right arm looked like a relic of the past, and next Crocodile raised his hand to her throat. "Now," he said, "what have we decided on?" Luffy gritted his teeth, but tried to unclench his hands. "Don't attack him," he ordered. "Luffy," Sanji shouted, "he's gonna." "Don't," Luffy shouted, glaring at Sanji over his shoulder. "Or he'll do it faster." Crocodile let out a laugh as the Straw Hats dropped any weapons on them. "Good, good," he said. "That makes this easier." Nami was tossed forward, projected by a wall of sand and hitting Luffy in the face. Both of them fell to the ground, and Zoro reached for his swords. It was too late, as Crocodile got to him first, grabbing both of his hands and doing to Zoro what he'd done to Nami. Turning, Crocodile blocked Sanji's kick with his hook, then grabbed him around the ankle with said hook to toss him away. He then turned in Johnny's direction. "Desert Spada," he shouted. With a wave of his arm, Luffy watched as a blade of sand raced for Johnny and struck him in the chest, not able to be blocked by a single blade. Johnny hit the ground, bloody, before Sanji reappeared in front of Crocodile and struck at him again. Crocodile dodged his kicks, and aimed to grab him with his hand. Before Zoro appeared, a blade in his mouth. Zoro slashed Crocodile across the back, making contact thanks to the water from Nami. Crocodile stumbled towards Luffy, who had freed himself from Nami after checking she was okay. "Gum Gum Pistol," he shouted, slamming his fist into Crocodile's stomach. The warlord was driven back by the attack, grimacing. He reached for Luffy's arm but the captain retracted it before he could be grabbed. "Collier shoot." Sanji descended on Crocodile and slammed his foot into his neck, making Crocodile stumble. He did not get caught by Zoro, though, backing up and placing a hand on the ground. "Sleep with the old kings of this damned country," he shouted, "Desert Girasole." None of the Straw Hats were able to get close to Crocodile again before the ground collapsed beneath them, the sand rushing down towards the hole at the bottom of the sinkhole. Luffy tried desperately to free himself, but it was to no avail. He couldn't get any purchase to hold himself up. No matter how hard he tried, the sand kept falling down. "Luffy!" Nami shouted from the edge of the pit. "Sanji, Zoro." Luffy gritted his teeth, using his rubber neck to turn and scan for his allies. He saw Sanji and Zoro struggling to stay up as well, and made split-second decision. He stopped trying to save himself, and reached to grab his cook and first mate. Using all the momentum he could gain, he flung both of them up out of the hole and back onto solid ground. "Luffy, grab my hand," Nami shouted as he slipped further down. Luffy was about to grab her, but his eyes widened as Crocodile appeared behind her, hook raised. Nami! The sound of metal resounding off of metal rang out. Luffy watched, stunned, as Johnny sprang from the ground and blocked the hook with his blade, saving Nami's life. Luffy wasted no time, grabbing the navigator's hand and pulling himself up. He stumbled as he reached solid ground and got to his feet, facing Crocodile with his crew. For his part, Crocodile looked livid. "You all don't quit, do you?" he demanded. "You have my respect for that." "No one wants your respect," Luffy shouted, making Crocodile laugh. "Be that way, Straw Hat," he said. "Those will be your last words." Before they fought, Luffy took a moment to check on his crew. Johnny was bleeding profusely under his shirt from the cut Crocodile had given him, and seemed uneven on his feet. Zoro had lost the use of his arms, having only the blade in his mouth. Sanji and himself seemed fine, and Nami was shaken from her dehydrated arm, but otherwise she dead. "Nami," he said, making her jump and look at him. "Spray your arm with water." "Why? Just do it." Crocodile tried to intervene, but Zoro and Sanji stopped him. Nami aimed her staff at herself and activated it, spraying herself with water. Luffy watched, satisfied, as her arm returned to normal. "It's back," she said, sounding stunned. "Of course, he took the water from it, so we need to stay hydrated." "Zoro." Nami aimed her staff at the first mate, who hung back and got a face full of water. Crocodile growled as Zoro picked up his blades. "What a troublesome girl," he said, raising his right hand. "I've had enough of this." Luffy watched, his eyes widened, as Crocodile ran his hand over his own body. His soaked clothes were dried, and his skin began dry as well. With a flick of his wrist, Crocodile shot the water off to the side. "I gave you a chance to impress me, now, I'll just kill you." "I'd like to see you try," Luffy replied. Nami hit him Aga. They'd forgotten he could turn into sand again. Crocodile appeared behind them and Nami, and with a smash he destroyed the Klimattack into several pieces. He pushed Nami backward, who landed on her back roughly. "How dare you push a lady?" Sanji shouted, aiming his foot at Crocodile's head. Crocodile turned and raised his hand. "Desert Spada," he said. The slice of sand hit Sanji as it had Johnny before him, cutting him vertically and sending him into the dirt. Dragon Twister. Gum Gum Gatling. Both Zoro and Luffy's attacks did nothing except make holes in Crocodile, which quickly filled back in with sand. "It's sad really," Crocodile said. "It's not that you're extremely weak, Straw Hats, it's just that I'm too strong." Desert Spada Bombardio. Like the attack before it, Crocodile sent a slash made of sand at them, and then another, and then another. Luffy and Zoro were forced into an awkward tango to avoid getting hit, but Johnny wasn't so lucky. He took another hit from the attack and hit the ground, groaning in pain. Zoro tried his hardest to avoid the attacks as well, but he wasn't as flexible as Luffy. He took a few nasty slices to his chest and collapsed, blood wetting the sand. The swordsman tried to stand a few times, but was failing. This left Luffy alone on his feet. "And it falls to one," Crocodile said. "What plan have you come up with now, Straw Hat Luffy?" Luffy gritted his teeth, eyes on Nami. She was away from everyone else, scrambling to put the Klimattack together again. "I'm just relishing the fact that you'll lose anyway," Luffy said. "So why don't you come and get it, Croco?" Nami's attempt at putting the Klimattack back together were interrupted by the sound of flesh ripping apart. Horrified, she looked up slowly. Luffy had been run through by Crocodile's hook. She watched, terrified, as Luffy tried to free himself from the hook, to no avail. It was right through his lower midsection. "Sorry Straw Hat," Crocodile said, "but you refused to get out of my way, and now it ends this way." "Luffy!" Nami screamed, the captain not replying to her. He spat up blood, which hit Crocodile in the face. He didn't seem fazed. "You'll die out here," Crocodile continued, "and the birds will feast on your corpse. I'll come back after we're finished in Alubarna and find your gum-gum fruit. I can still make use of that." Luffy was leaning back, groaning in pain. Nami wanted to help, but she couldn't find her strength. Luffy lost more and more strength, leaning backwards. Until he surprised everyone. He'd not been leaning back because he was losing strength. He'd been leaning back because he was planning on headbutting Crocodile as hard as he could. Luffy's rubber neck snapped back into place, and Crocodile's face was crunched under Luffy's forehead. growling in surprise. Luffy was dropped as Crocodile stumbled backwards. Defiant until the end, huh? Crocodile demanded. Desert Sumidero. A maw opened up beneath Luffy, on a smaller scale than the one Crocodile had used before. Luffy had no footing to regain, no one to grab onto. He slipped and fell into the darkness, lobbing curses at Crocodile. Nami was alone now. Alone with the warlord. She watched as Luffy disappeared into the pit before fearfully looking up at Crocodile. He regarded her without a care, stepping towards her slowly. Nami tried and failed to put her staff back together. She wasn't used to it yet. One last stand. Crocodile mused as he walked towards her. How cute. Gee, get away from me, Nami shouted, knowing damn well she didn't look threatening. And what will you do about it? Crocodile asked. Spray your hose at me again? Nami didn't know, she hadn't practiced enough. She knew his previous attack hadn't broken it entirely, but she had no time to reconstruct it. Have you finished up out here? A new voice asked. Nami and Crocodile looked as Ms. All Sunday walked up, looking vaguely interested. Nico Robin, Crocodile said, which must have been her real name. Where were you, exactly? I'll have you know I was busy dealing with Pell the Falcon, she replied. In case you hadn't figured it out, the government knows of us. It makes no difference, Crocodile replied. The rebels don't. About that, Nico Robin said. They actually do. Crocodile's eyes widened and turned to Robin, who just stared back at him. They do? He demanded. When did that happen? Not too long ago, Robin replied. I got reports from our spies that Princess Vivi showed up at Kotoria and spilled our dirty little secret. As it stands, the rebels are on the way to assist the royal army. Which means they're going to Alubarna. At first Nami was hopeful, because all of that sounded like a good thing. However, Crocodile just laughed. Are they now? He asked. Well, doesn't that make our job easy? Nico Robin smirked. It does indeed, she said. Crocodile turned back to Nami, still chuckling. Well, I applaud your attempts, kid, he said to her. You and your little band have caused us a lot of trouble. But it doesn't matter in the end. The pieces are falling into place all the same. Nami had nothing to say, she was terrified. Nothing to say? Good, you should listen when those stronger than you speak. Now, I'll be heading to Alubarna. With the king missing, and Pell out of commission, the army will be in disarray. The rebels won't help any, seeing as we have countless agents in both. Once they reach Alubarna, they'll have sealed their own fate. Why, you'll fail, Nami hissed. Vivi will stop you. And how will she do that? Crocodile asked. She has no powers, and I just wiped out half or more of your crew if my reports are correct. Once I'm done with you, anyway. He raised his hook above his head, and Nami flinched and hid her face. This was the end. You're killing her? Robin asked. Crocodile paused, and Nami opened an eye to watch. Why shouldn't I? Crocodile demanded. Are you questioning me, Nico Robin? Only your methods, Robin replied as she shrugged her shoulders. I'd keep her alive. And why is that? Crocodile asked. So she can despair in their failure, Robin replied. Speaking from experience, there's nothing more enjoyable than watching your enemies powerless to stop you. That leaves loose ends, Crocodile said as he turned back to Nami, and after those failures of agents put me in this situation. I hate those more than ever. Robin's face wasn't readable, but Nami was still confused. Was she trying to save her? Do as you wish, Robin said. I'm not advocating for saving lives after all of this. I just think victory will taste all the sweeter knowing she has to watch us. Crocodile seemed to consider this more a moment, his face as unreadable as Robin's. No, he finally said, she dies. Nami looked helplessly at Robin. Her blue eyes bored into Nami, but she closed them and sighed. As you say, she said. Nami gaped at her in shock, before looking up at Crocodile. He responded by dropping his hook onto her. And the Rainbase mission failed. At least an hour had passed since Rainbase had been destroyed by the Straw Hats. Bitself was any wiser to their real identity. The city was more protected than most thanks to Baroque works, so the citizens still had no idea Crocodile was the real enemy. And that sickened Pell. He stumbled through the streets, following the word of mouth that Crocodile had defeated the rebels outside town. He needed to find those people, and see if they were still alive. He needed their help. He soon reached the edge of Rainbase and stumbled into the sand. He was worried at first he'd gone the wrong way, but the blood on the sand showed he hadn't. He'd found them. From what he could see, there was 3 men and a woman here. All of them were bleeding into the sand still, but he could tell they were alive. However, that wasn't what he focused on. "Nico Robin!" he shouted angrily, making the woman turn. "Leave them alone." He had no idea why the woman was still hanging around, but he'd stop her from finishing off Princess Vivi's allies. "Ah, Pell," she said with a smile. "Have you recovered? Keep your filthy claws off of the princess's allies," he shouted, preparing his blade. "Your devil fruit powers won't catch me off guard this time." "Oh, stop it," she chastised. "I'm busy." Pell made a face at this, but Nico Robin turned away from him and raised her hands. The sand started to rumble, and Pell was surprised to see a man ejected from the sand. He was coughing up a storm as he hit the ground, Robin regarding him quietly. "You were missing one of them," she said, turning and walking away. "You might want to act quickly. They've been bleeding for quite some times now. Crocodile left a few of them in town as well, a small girl and a raccoon dog, I think. Save them as well." Pell watched her walk towards a smaller bananawani outfitted her desert travel. "Why did you save him?" Pell demanded. Nico Robin let out a laugh. "I wonder," she replied. "I suppose I'm curious to see how strong the will of D is." Saying no more, Robin took off on her bananawani. Pell watched her go, before he looked down at the man at his feet. "You." The man struggled to say, spitting sand out of his mouth, "Do you have water?" Pell grimaced at the wound in the mon's stomach, kneeling down next to him. "Save your strength," he said, "you will need it for your rematch against Crocodile." Vivi actually felt better being on board the ship, which surprised her. She'd never have thought she'd end up like that, but serving Baroque works over the years seemed to have rubbed off on her. She was currently sailing up the Sandora River, on board one of 6 different ships Koza and the rebels had. After stabilizing the situation in Nanohana, Koza and the rebels discovered a treasure trove of weapons aboard the ship that had crashed into the port, no doubt planted there by Crocodile for the rebels to use after being tricked by Mr. 2. Koza had used the weapons to outfit the rebels all right, but who he had them aimed at was different. Vivi, turning, the princess saw Koza walking up to her at the edge of the ship. "We'll be arriving at the Alubarna docks in a few hours," he said. "After that, we'll meet up with Chaka and discuss strategy." Vivi gave him a smile. "Sounds good," she said. There was a beat of silence between them before the man let out a dissatisfied sound. "I also, he started, "I want to apologize." "For what?" Vivi asked, tilting her head to the side. Koza grunted. Well, he tried again, back there, in Nanohana, well, for a moment, I really did believe you had lied to me. That you had concocted that show in my camp as a way to persuade me into following your train of thought. I thought you had betrayed me." Vivi frowned at him, raking a step towards him. "Koza," she said softly, making him look at her. "I'd never betray you. You know that." Koza swallowed hard as he stared at her. "I know that," he said, "but, back there, before that you revealed the king was an imposter. I really thought you were working with your father to destroy the country. And I wanted to apologize for ever thinking that." "What reason did you have to think otherwise?" Vivi asked him. "It was my word against the proof you saw with your own eyes." "But I know you better than that," Koza exclaimed. He grabbed her hands in his, staring right into her eyes. "I haven't seen you in years, but I still knew better than that. I'm sorry I ever doubted you." Vivi felt her cheeks flush at the closeness between them, hoping to God no one was watching them. "Koza, it's okay," she breathed. "Seriously, it's fine. We overcome everything Crocodile's thrown at us so far. I'm not mad." Koza's frown deepened as he released her, staring off into the desert. "Speaking of that," he said, "have you heard from your allies yet?" Vivi's heart tied itself up in knots, shaking her head. "No," she said, "but we have no way to communicate over such a vast distance." "That seems flawed," the commander pointed out. "Communication is key in combat. I'd invest in some mini transponder snails or something." "I'll put that on my to-do list," Vivi answered back. Koza was silent, watching the water beneath the ship quietly. "Do you think they're okay?" he asked. Vivi watched the waves ripple away from the ship, trying to figure out what her answer was. "They're fine," she said. "I bet they're on their way to Alubarna right now." The first thing Luffy could grasp onto was pain. His entire body ached with pain, particularly his a few grueling seconds he managed to open his eyes, seeing a light blue roof above him. "Where am I?" he asked weakly, mouth dry and cracked. "Luffy," a familiar voice said. Luffy raised his head to see Chopper watching him with a worried expression. "Chopper," Luffy said, "you're okay. I was worried Crocodile had crocodile." "Chopper, where's Crocodile?" The reindeer made a face and handed Luffy a nearby glass of water. "Drink," the doctor instructed, "it'll literally save you." Luffy gulped back the cup in one go, which was taken and refilled by Chopper. Luffy took several cupfuls before he gasped for air. "What happened?" he demanded. "Where's the croc?" Chopper frowned and looked at his feet. "It was all in vain, Luffy," he said. "Even with the numbers advantage, he took us all out. Everyone is really badly hurt. You, Nami and Johnny most of all." Luffy's stomach turned at this. "Nami got hurt?" he asked weakly, remembering the old Mont's face from Kokoyashi village. "How badly?" "Here, get up and we'll go see them. You're the last to wake up." Luffy managed to sit up in the cot he'd been in, taking in his surroundings. They appeared to be in a rundown building on the outskirts of Rainbase, which surprised him given that the city was so rich. Moving to another room, Luffy saw his crewmates sitting in a circle with a man he didn't recognize. "Big bro Luffy," Johnny shouted, jumping to his feet. The swordsman had lost his shirt in the fight, his torso wrapped in bandages. "You're okay?" "Of course I am," Luffy replied. "Crocodile can't kill me." "What happened?" "He kicked our ass, that's what," Sanji replied, wrapped up in a similar way to Johnny. "Even worse, he might have scarred Nami's swan." Luffy's eyes fell on their navigator, who looked down at the floor. "Nami," he asked, "did he hurt you?" Nami tried to give me a brave smile, but it wasn't going well. "Not too badly," she said. "I was pulled back when he hit me, so I really only got grazed." "It'll still probably scar," Chopper told her. "It wasn't pretty." "What was it?" Luffy asked. "Show me." Nami looked reluctant, but she slowly lifted the white linen shirt she'd been given. Luffy tried not to lose it when he saw the bandages wrapped around her right shoulder to her left side. "Don't make that face," the redhead implored. "I'm fine, really." "Doesn't look fine," Luffy growled. "I'm sorry Nami. I let you get hurt." "Don't give me that chauvinistic crap," Nami spat. "I knew what I was signing up for." "Never mind her scars," Marianne spoke up. The brunette had been quiet so far, watching from the far side of the room. "What do you mean you got pulled back?" Nami frowned at this. "Well, it was weird," she said. "When Crocodile went to slash me, I got pulled back right as he hit me. He still connected enough to really hurt me, but he didn't fatally wound me with it." "What pulled you back?" Zoro asked. "I don't know," Nami said. "It felt like a hand pulled me though." "It was Nico Robin," the other man said. Luffy turned to look at him, noting he had a bird-like face. "Nikki who?" he asked him. "Nico Robin," the man said. "Codename Ms. All Sunday. She probably saved you. Like she saved this one." He pointed at Luffy as he said this, making him frown. When had that woman saved him? Just as he asked this, he remembered. He remembered her pulling him from the sand with arms that spawned from the ground. "She did do that," he murmured aloud. "Why would she do that?" "She offered us an eternal pose to Alabasta too," Sanji noted. "Is she on our side?" "At the very least, I doubt she's fully on Crocodile's side," Nami said. "She tried to bargain for my life after you guys got beaten. She failed, or so I thought. But if she really saved me, that means we may be able to bank on more help," Johnny concluded. "Maybe she'll betray Crocodile when the time is right." "Don't be so hopeful, Johnny," Zoro said. "She still killed Igaram." Luffy had almost forgotten the tall man in all the chaos. "So she did do that," the other man said. "That bitch." "Who the hell are you?" Luffy demanded, already short on patience. "Ah, I forgot to introduce myself," he said. "My name is Pell. I work with the army and King Cobra. I'm an ally." "He's the one who saved us," Chopper added. "He found me and Marianne, and rehydrated our limbs." "It was the least I can do, saving the princess's allies," Pell replied, bowing his head slightly. "Wait, why did you come here?" Luffy asked. "Well," Pell started, "the plan was for me to survey Rainbase and see what I could see. The last order the king gave me was to prepare for a battle. But as I got here, I saw you all battling Crocodile, and Nico Robin watching from afar. I tried to fight me, but she caught me off guard with her devil fruit powers. Since then, I've been helping your doctor help you all." "Wait," Luffy said. "How long have we been here?" The crew was silent. Pell sighed. "A few hours, at least," he said, "long enough for Crocodile to reach Alubarna." Luffy gritted his teeth at this, glaring at the ground. "And we don't know what Vivi and the others have gotten up to yet," Zoro said. "We're in the dark." "We need to get to the capital," Sanji said, "and now." "It's hours before we reach Alubarna," Pell said, "not to mention we'd need to cross the Sandora River." "Well, do you have an idea?" Luffy asked him. Pell frowned. "Well, I'd be able to fly some of you there on my back, but I can only carry a few. We'd be leaving some of you in the dust." "Wait, you can fly?" Nami asked him. Pell nodded. "I ate the bird fruit model, Falcon." Pell replied. "I can turn into a bird." "Wait," Chopper said, jumping with his paw up to gain attention. "You ate a zone fruit?" "Yeah," Pell replied. "Why?" Chopper leaned down and dug around in the backpack he'd slung around his back, before pulling out a pouch. Opening it, Luffy watched the doctor pull out a rumble ball. "You could try this," Chopper insisted. "What is it, exactly?" Pell asked as he took the candy from Chopper. "I call it a rumble ball," Chopper said. "I developed it myself. When a devil fruit user eats it, it lets them manipulate their powers differently. If you take one, you may be able to become bigger." Pell's eyes widened at this, examining the ball. "Fascinating," he said. "Well, it's worth a try, I guess. Have these things been tested?" "On me," Chopper replied. Pell watched him warily. "I hate to sound rude," he said, "but what exactly are you?" "Well, I'm a reindeer," Chopper said, sounding offended. "Yes, but why can you speak?" Pell insisted. "Moreover, why do you have some extensive medical knowledge?" "He's a zone 2, Nami explained. "He's a reindeer that ate the human fruit." "Why does that even exist?" Pell asked, "and what would happen if a regular human ate it?" "That's what I'm saying," Johnny said, sounding vindicated. "That doesn't matter," Chopper said. "Pell, eat the ball and test it out. It'll be weird at first, but, trust me, they work. Besides, this will be good for my research." Pell seemed reluctant, but nodded as he got up from his seat. The crew followed him outside into the edge of Rainbase, where the man threw the ball into his mouth and crunched down on it. "Ew," Pell muttered, "it tastes gross." "It's medicine, it never tastes good," Chopper insisted. "Try it out." Pell made a face, but nodded. Luffy watched in awe as the man transformed into a bird, one that was human-sized and certainly not big enough for all of them. As he watched, though, Pell's form began to morph even more. His wingspan grew, and so did his body. It was strange, watching a bird that was usually rather small grow to be the size of a carriage. "Incredible," Pell's voice came from the beak of the bird. "By willing my body to grow, it actually did. This is incredible, Dr. Chopper." "Your praise doesn't make me that happy, asshole," Chopper said, "but, I should mention the time limit." "Time limit?" Pell asked. "Well," Chopper started, "they only last about 3 minutes per ball. I've got a fair amount, so I can keep feeding them to you, but it may be a close call." Pell hummed at this. "I don't think it will be a problem," he said. "Sit higher up, closer to my mouth. I'll make sure we make it in time." "I've got it," Luffy said, stretching his arms. He grabbed the crew as tightly as he could with his arms and flung all of them on top of Pell, and before he had time to grab hold of feathers or something, the zone took flight into the air at an insane speed. He thankfully managed to get a hold of some feathers, so that he didn't fall off. "Whoa!" he shouted as Pell flapped his massive wings, sending them flying through the air. "We're going so fast." "I'm nothing if not fast," Pell replied. "If I can keep this up, we'll reach the Sandora in an hour or so." Chopper made a frustrated sound at this. "That's 20 rumble balls," he muttered to himself. "Assuming that's an accurate assessment, Pell." "We'll make it an accurate assessment," Pell said. Chopper began muttering to himself, but Luffy only caught some of it. "I'd say it's been 30 seconds since I gave it to him. Have to count, but what if I... Ignoring the muttering reindeer, Luffy grabbed on tight as Pell flapped his giant wings again. "Any idea what we're going to do next time?" Marianne asked. "Or are we charging in with no plan?" Luffy listened intently as the crew discussed the plan. "We know water makes him weak," Zoro said, "but we can't rely on Nami alone. It puts her in danger." "I won't allow that," Sanji shouted. "I can fight, Sanji," Nami said irritably, "but Zoro's right. Relying on me alone isn't a good idea." "Alone," Luffy said as a light bulb lit in his head. "Nami, you figured that thing out yet?" "What thing?" she asked, making a face. "Your staff." Nami pulled out her Klima tact, the staff she'd gotten from Usopp, smiling at it. "Usopp said it could do a lot, but I haven't figured it all out yet, no." "Do you think you can make it rain?" he asked. Nami frowned. "Maybe," she said, "but I'd have to test out the combinations in it. I'm not a chemist, so I'll need to see what I can do." "I'll help," Marianne said. "I use chemicals in my paints. Let me see." Marianne scooted closer to Nami and the girls went to work with the staff, and Pell took another massive strike of his wings. "What was the situation in Alubarna?" Luffy asked Pell. "Chaotic," Pell replied. "As I said, the king sent me to do reconnaissance on Rainbase. Who knows how bad it is now?" "It shouldn't be as bad if Vivi managed her job," Chopper said. "Unless Crocodile has caused even more chaos," Sanji noted. "We should be prepared for anything," Luffy said. "I don't want us to get beat like that again. We won't always have Nico Robin saving us unexpectedly. Nami, Marianne, I want you able to make rain clouds by the time we get there." "You got it," Nami replied. Marianne only nodded, eyes on the Klimatact. "Sanji, Zoro, Johnny, let me handle Croc," he said to the other fighters. "I don't want anyone else getting hurt." "And if you can't handle him?" Zoro asked. "I will," he replied. "I want you guys on the ground looking for other high-ranking agents. Crocodile still has a lot under his command. For all we know, Alubarna is a battleground right now." Vivi knew a royal escort when she saw it, and she was currently looking at one off the side of the ship. The rebels' ships were currently docking, and those on board were disembarking. She, however, was on board still, eyes on the city ahead of them. There was still a way to go to Alubarna, but it was finally within range. It seemed calm, and the guards in question didn't seem in any rush. "Ready?" a voice asked. Vivi looked over to her side to see Nijiko, Yosaku and Usopp standing there. She smiled at them. "Yep," she said, "we're going to put an end to this once and for all." "Stay close to us, big sis Vivi," Yosaku said. "There's no telling where Baroque Works agents will be hiding." "Of course, Yosaku," she said with a giggle. "I'll stay right by your side." This seemed to make the swordsman happy, making Usopp cough. "I'll help too," he said. "I've got a good eye, so I'll let you know if anyone is shady." "Thank you, Usopp," she said. "I'm lucky to have such a wonderful team of bodyguards." "You sure know how to butter them up, huh?" Nijiko asked, making Vivi laugh. "Come on, we're being waited on." Vivi in the lead, the four disembarked the ship and walked towards Koza, who was talking with who seemed to be in charge. "Princess Vivi." A man in the squad of soldiers shouted, "It's really you, it's so good to see you again." The man broke rank and ran for her, and Vivi was shoved back as Yosaku stepped in between them. "Stay back," he advised. "How dare you?" the soldier shouted. "She's royalty of my country. You're just common pirates, you're private." The man in charge shouted, "Get back in formation." The man looked irritated. "LD. Laying it on thick, huh Yosaku?" Nijiko asked as they joined Koza. "It's my job to protect big sis Vivi," Yosaku said. "And that's what I intend to do." "I appreciate it," Vivi said. "Can't be too careful." "Don't encourage him," Nijiko scolded. Finally joining Koza, the captain bowed to her, followed up by his men. "It is good to see you again, princess," he said. "We've been instructed by Chaka to escort you all to him." "First things first," Vivi said. "What is the situation in the capital?" "Bad," the captain replied. "With the king missing, everyone is on edge. We can stop worrying about the rebels at least, but no one knows if Crocodile will make his move soon." "Have you seen a group of people led by one in a straw hat?" Vivi asked him. The captain made a face. "I don't recall seeing anyone like that," he said. "Why?" "Allies of mine," Vivi said as she looked at her feet. "They went to Rainbase to stop Crocodile, and we were supposed to meet up in Alubarna." Silence came over the group as everyone digested this information. "Do not fret, princess," the captain said. It is a long way from here to Rain Base, across the Sandora at that. I'm sure your friends are fine. Vivi said, not assured in the least. Anything else to report? Yes, we've secured the castle in and out. Crocodile will never be able to get in. Good, Vivi said. It will be our last bastion in this battle, if we need it. And trust me, Captain, a battle is coming. And Crocodile will fire the first shot. The captain frowned at this and nodded. Then we best get you all to Chaka, he said. That way, we can plan our defenses.